Chapter 798. Looking at the empty house, Su Yingtian said in surprise, "This? How could there be no one here? I think they have already retreated." Tang Jing walked around in a circle and analyzed. Withdrawn? Su Yingtian frowned. How could such an important stronghold be withdrawn? He lowered his head and thought for a moment, then said, "Something must have happened. No matter what it is, let's go to the capital and find out the truth." Tang Jing shrugged and said indifferently. Although there was no stronghold, the National Security Bureau was still a special agent organization, so they still found a means of transportation and drove to the capital. Planes and trains would expose their whereabouts, so it was safest to drive by themselves. Along the way, Su Yingtian did not give up and went to find a few more secret strongholds. If they were not demolished, they were abandoned and the people were gone. He felt that the situation was serious and muttered, "There must be a change in the National Security Bureau. No matter what happened, you're back, so all the rascals have nowhere to hide." Tang Jing comforted. Su Yingtian nodded and temporarily put his heart back into his stomach. The journey was unimpeded from the south to the north and back to the capital. The two sides parted ways. Tang Jing went home, while Su Yingtian went back to the National Security Bureau headquarters and agreed that when Su Yingtian pointed out Xing Feng, Tang Jing would testify. After not seeing his family for more than a month, Tang Jing's longing was like a torrential river. He stepped on the gas and sped home. Marshall looked at his impatient expression and couldn't help but recall the operation this time. Coming from the fire, going into the water, it was really going through fire and water. Although it was extremely dangerous, Marshall enjoyed this kind of two-person world. As soon as she returned home, Tang Jing no longer belonged to her alone. The car stopped in front of the villa. Tang Jing jumped out of the car and rushed in. The large living room was empty. "Where is he?" Tang Jing shouted, but no one answered. His heart skipped a beat and he had a bad feeling. Did something happen at home? That's not right. With the Empyrean fairy around, how could anything go wrong? Besides, there are no signs of a fight at home. He hurriedly rushed into each room to search. The furniture and clothes were all there, but there was no one. Moreover, there were leftovers in the fridge. Obviously, everyone was still living here. He heaved a sigh of relief. It was strange that everyone had disappeared in broad daylight. Even the Empyrean fairy and Nana were nowhere to be found. Weren't they cultivating at home? "Hey, I'll prepare a table of delicious food. When they come back, I'll give them a surprise." Tang Jing's phone rang just as he was about to move his head. It was a call from Su Yingtian. "Hello, Chief Su." Before Tang Jing could finish, he was interrupted by Su Yingtian. He shouted anxiously, "Tang Jing, save us." Beep beep. The line was disconnected. Tang Jing's heart was in suspense. Didn't Su Yingtian return to the headquarters of the National Security Bureau? Why did he call for help for no reason? Something must have gone wrong. Tang Jing muttered to himself with a grim expression. He tried to call back but found that he could not get through. "Marshal, let's go find Chief Su and the others first." Tang Jing did not bother to show off his culinary skills as he turned around and rushed into the car. "I'll go too." Marshal chased after him. Tang Jing drove the car and quickly disappeared from the door. The car shuttled through the traffic at lightning speed. Tang Jing was burning with anxiety. Su Yingtian had called for help, so there must be a big problem. However, the two sides had not been separated for long, and this was the capital, which could be considered Su Yingtian's territory. How could there be a problem? "Where are we going to find him?" Marshall asked. Tang Jing muttered to himself and said, "The headquarters of the National Security Bureau." Since they went to the headquarters of the National Security Bureau, then they might have encountered danger there. A moment later, the car stopped in front of the headquarters of the National Security Bureau. Tang Jing had been here several times and even the guard recognized him. However, the guard this time was obviously a new face. He stopped the two of them and asked cautiously, "Who are you looking for?" "We're looking for Chief Su," Tang Jing said. The guard's expression changed slightly and said, "So you're looking for Chief Su? Then come with me." The two of them followed the guard into the building. Looking up, Tang Jing felt that something was strange, but he could not say what it was. "How long has Chief Su been back?" Tang Jing asked without batting an eyelid. "It's been a while." The guard hesitated for a moment before replying. Tang Jing frowned and asked, "Is Chief Su all right?" "Of course he's fine," the guard said without hesitation. Tang Jing and Marshall quietly looked at each other and saw the vigilance in each other's eyes. There was something wrong with this place. Su Yingtian had clearly called for help. How could there be no problem? Furthermore, the guard said that he had returned. With all sorts of contradictions intertwined, something must have happened. The two of them were not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, they were prepared to wait and see. We're not going to Chief Su's office, are we? Looking at the two sides that were getting more and more gloomy, Tang Jing broke the silence and asked. The guard sped up and said, Chief Su is in the innermost part. This was a long corridor. The end was pitch black and it was impossible to see anything clearly. Stop him. Tang Jing snorted and made a move like lightning. The guard seemed to have guessed his actions. With a tap of his foot, he rushed forward and dodged the grab. Tang Jing did not expect the other party to react so quickly and actually dodge the attack. Stop, where do you think you're going? Tang Jing once again made his move. His speed was as fast as lightning. The guard was finally unable to escape and fell into the palm of Tang Jing's hand. Where's Chief Su? Where is he? Tang Jing's face was ashen. It was extremely frightening. The guard panicked. His eyes rolled around and said, I don't know. You don't know? I have a way to find out. Tang Jing snorted in disdain. Just as he was about to use the soul-searching technique, many people suddenly appeared from both sides and attacked him fiercely. There's an ambush. Tang Jing shouted and blocked the door guard in front of him. A bullet actually hit the door guard in the head, exploding his head and killing him on the spot. Puff puff puff. In all directions, the sound of bullets passing through silencers rose and fell. In the capital, the sound of gunfire would definitely cause panic, so these people specially prepared silencers. The bullets brushed past the two of them. The two of them were like dancing birds, passing through the gaps in their own bodies. One in front and one behind, they respectively rushed towards their targets. Bang bang bang. Tang Jing used his fists and Marshall used his fire underworld divine palm, striking many enemies. The two of them took this opportunity to rush backwards in an attempt to escape the building. Stop, you're still thinking of escaping after coming here? Suddenly, a thunderous roar exploded. A familiar person walked out from the end of the tunnel. Tang Jing's pupils constricted as he shouted, Wind King! Wind King looked at Tang Jing and Marshall with a complicated expression. He said in bewilderment, the two of you actually didn't die. It seems like you escaped the explosion with Suing Tian. Where's Chief Su? You'll be reunited very soon. It's just that it's in the underworld. Wind King said with killing intent, Open fire. Puff puff puff. Bullets that blotted out the sky and covered the earth flew over. Tang Jing immediately summoned his holy armor shield. Ping 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 ping, like rain hitting a banana leaf, the bullets struck the holy armor shield but did not leave a single mark. Instead, the rebounding bullets hit many people. The National Security Bureau has been replaced by people from the Dragon Group. What is going on? Tang Jing asked loudly. The National Security Bureau has already become history. In the future, it will be the world of the Dragon Group. Last time you didn't die, but this time you can forget about living. The Wind King flaunted his might and stretched out his hand. A tornado gradually condensed in his palm. Although it was only a miniature tornado, one could clearly sense the might it contained. Back then, Fire King died in your hands. Today I will take revenge for Fire King. With that said, Wind King swung his hand forward. The tornado in his palm flew out and quickly grew in size, flying horizontally towards Tang Jing and Marshall. The tornado spun rapidly, and even the bullets that were shot out were sucked into it. In an instant it arrived in front of Tang Jing. Tang Jing kept his holy armor shield and with a move of the heaven-flying immortal sword technique, the War Soul sword fiercely pierced into the center of the tornado. The tornado quickly moved forward around the War Soul sword, trying to suck in Tang Jing's entire body. Tang Jing's expression turned cold and said, Insignificant skill. The War Soul sword shone brightly, like 10,000 rays of multicolored light soaring into the sky, instantly piercing through the tornado. With a boom, the tornado collapsed and disappeared without a trace. But before Tang Jing could even heave a sigh of relief, he discovered that there were small tornadoes all around him. He was in the center of the storm, and a strong tearing force came from all directions, as if it wanted to tear him apart. Tang Jing started to spin on the spot, but the direction of the tornado was completely opposite. Then he heard the swishing sounds of the War Soul sword as well as a glaring sword light. Every tornado was struck several times by the War Soul sword. With a few rumbling sounds, the tornadoes shattered into pieces. Tang Jing's figure flashed, holding onto the War Soul sword, he pierced towards the Wind King, man and sword as one. The Wind King's expression changed slightly. With a wave of his hands, a huge tornado wrapped around him, forming a sturdy defense. The War Soul sword struck the tornado. Its defensive power was astonishing, and it actually stopped the War Soul Sword from advancing any further. Tang Jing smirked in disdain. You want to block my War Soul Sword with this little bit of defensive power? The innate chi crazily poured into the War Soul Sword. In that instant, the War Soul Sword's light exploded, and pierced into the tornado like tofu. The tornado was immediately dyed blood red. The fresh blood followed the tornado and spun rapidly. In an instant, it turned into a tornado formed from fresh blood. However, the wind speed gradually weakened. Not long later, the tornado disappeared, leaving behind a pool of blood on the ground. In the pool of blood, the Wind King had already lost his life and was lying on the ground in a sorry state. However, his eyes were sunken in and his entire body was skin and bones. He was completely different from before, like a dried-up mummy. It turned out that Tang Zheng's sword had pierced his body, and then all the blood had been sucked out by the tornado. There was not a single drop of blood on his body. Chapter 799. When the others saw the Wind King's death, their faces all changed and they all retreated. Tang Zheng glanced at the crowd and rushed towards the end of the tunnel with Marshall. The Wind King had rushed out from there, so maybe Suing Tian was there. The people around could not resist the order and rushed over while shouting. Puff puff puff. The War Spirit Sword flashed and the people in front fell to the ground. Blood splattered everywhere and formed a river. Tang Zheng and Marshall rushed through the tunnel like a whirlwind and arrived at the basement. In front of them was a mess. The ground and walls were filled with traces of battle and mottled with blood. You killed all my soldiers. I will perish together with you. Suing Tian's heart-wrenching voice faintly sounded out. Tang Zheng and Marshall looked at each other and their hearts skipped a beat. Suing Tian was not dead, but the situation was not optimistic. His men were all dead. Bang! Tang Zheng flew and kicked a huge iron door, causing it to fall to the ground. The smell of blood assailed his nostrils, causing him to involuntarily cough. Tang Zheng quickly locked onto Suing Tian, who was heavily surrounded. He was fighting a bloody battle, his clothes were already dyed red with blood and he was riddled with wounds. He was in a sorry state like a trapped beast. There were quite a few people on the ground. There were soldiers from the National Security Bureau and also people from the Dragon Group. The one leading the attack was the Water King. Suing Tian was already exhausted. If not for his tenacious willpower, he would have already fallen. He clenched his teeth and his eyes almost popped out. Even if he died, he would remember these people's hateful faces. In his next life he would also take revenge. His heart was bleeding. It was worse than death. Previously, he had led his subordinates back to the National Security Bureau headquarters. The guard had lied and said that the leader wanted to meet them. The group of people were brought to the basement and he finally discovered something strange. At this time the enemy suddenly attacked. They were caught off guard and were caught completely off guard. Their casualties were disastrous, but no one cowered. Instead, they continued to persevere, fighting until their last breath. Suing Tian already understood that this was a scheme of the Dragon Group's Xing Feng. He was definitely afraid that his misdeeds would be exposed, so he didn't hesitate to kill everyone involved. Such sinister intentions were rarely seen in this world. Suing Tian refused to give up, so he fought back and even asked Tang Zheng for help. Seeing the people around him fall down one by one, he felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. When he was finally the only one left, he almost despaired. The heavens were blind. Could it be that Xing Feng was allowed to deceive everyone and run amok? He was unwilling to give up. His strong willpower supported him and prevented him from collapsing immediately. He subconsciously counterattacked the attacks coming from all directions. This was the scene that Tang Zheng saw. That unyielding body made his heart ache, and a monstrous anger rushed to his brain. He flew into a rage and said, "Go to hell." Shwa shwa shwa. The outermost super soldiers were all struck by the Battle Soul Sword and fell to the ground dead. When the others saw this, they scattered in all directions. The Water King glared and said, "Tang Zheng, you didn't die either." "I won't die even if you die." Tang Zheng said coldly, "Back then your Dragon Group people escaped, and now you've come to the National Security Bureau. No matter what, you people can forget about leaving this door. Heng, you only have 3 people. The entire National Security Bureau headquarters are our people. Who do you think has a higher chance of winning?" The Water King said disdainfully. Tang Zheng coldly laughed. "Victory is not decided by the number of people. No matter how many people there are, they are all chickens and dogs, unable to withstand a single blow." "Is that so? Then we'll kill you all. Then no one will know what happened on the ocean. Group leader Xing has always wanted you dead. There is a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There is no door to hell, but you insist on barging in. Today I'll let you all perish together. The Water King said arrogantly. Although he had seen Tang Jing fight before, he had never truly fought with him. In his heart, he believed that since he had the advantage in numbers, dealing with Tang Jing would not be a problem. This was not like when they were on the ocean. They had to hide and act quietly. Now they were brazen and could go all out. Kill. Tang Jing was too lazy to waste words with him. With a loud roar he rushed forward. Marshall was the same. Every time the fire underworld palm struck a person, their chest would feel like it was on fire. Not only would it cave in, but it would also leave behind a burning handprint. When Suing Tian saw that the reinforcements had arrived, tears almost flowed out of his eyes. He roared, "Tang Jing, kill them all and take revenge for the dead." The Water King blocked Tang Jing. His hands formed claws and 2 balls of water appeared in his palms. Then he pushed them forward, and the balls of water transformed into 2 water dragons. One on the left and one on the right. They rushed towards Tang Jing. Tang Jing bellowed. The War Soul Sword released a dazzling light that tangled with the water dragons. Water was the source of all living things and had a myriad of forms. Thus, when the War Soul Sword slashed onto the water dragon did not dissipate. Instead, it wrapped around the War Soul Sword, causing Tang Jing's attack to disappear. His strength is actually higher than the Wind King's. Tang Jing's gaze turned cold. He immediately kept the War Soul Sword back into the Sumru world. He reached out with both hands and grabbed the water dragon. Bang! The water dragon was powerful and heavy, shaking Tang Jing's palm until it seemed like it was about to split open. However, the corner of his mouth hooked up into a smile and said, "Let's see how much water you can gather." As soon as he finished speaking, a black hole appeared in his palm. Swallowing the Heavens technique. This time he did not use the Swallowing Heavens technique's absorption technique. Instead, he used the most fundamental power of the Swallowing Heavens technique. With a flash of black light, the roaring water dragon was sucked into the black hole and disappeared. This, Water King was stunned for a moment, then said angrily, "What kind of technique is this? Swallowing the Heavens technique? It's really a waste of talent to deal with you." Tang Jing rushed forward. Black light flickered in his 2 palms, causing Water King to feel uneasy. The people around Water King roared, "What are you all still standing there for? Watching the show." Da-da-da. The super soldier pulled the trigger and bullets poured out, all of them heading towards Tang Jing's body. Tang Jing waved his hands and all the bullets disappeared, swallowed by the Swallowing the Heavens technique. Everyone looked at the black hole in his palm in fear. They didn't know where the bullets were sucked to. Tang Jing couldn't be bothered with the small shrimps. He rubbed his body and pounced towards Water King. Water King condensed another ball of water in his hand. With a flick of his finger, it turned into water droplets that filled the sky. They were like arrows that blotted out the sky, and their power was not to be underestimated. Tang Jing used the same trick again. The black light in his palm shone brightly, and the black hole also expanded a bit. It sucked all the water droplets into the black hole, and then forced the Water King into a corner. Water King was good at using water to attack because he had a way to collect water vapor in the air. Moreover, this water vapor could be recycled and used continuously. Therefore, his attacks could be continuous. Although this basement was humid and there was a lot of water vapor in the air, Tang Jing directly sucked the water into the black hole, and the water vapor in this space suddenly decreased. If the Water King wanted to condense water vapor to attack again, it would be harder than ascending to the sky. The Water King had never encountered such a situation. In the world, water vapor was endless. However, he didn't expect that in this small world, all the water vapor would be sucked away by Tang Jing. He couldn't reuse it at all. Without the water vapor, his strength was like a castle in the air. It looked good, but it was useless. Therefore, when Tang Jing attacked again, he could only use the remaining water vapor in the air to counterattack. 2 egg-sized water balls appeared in his palm. Before he attacked, Tang Jing's palm was in front of him. With a wave of his hand, the water balls were sucked into the black hole and disappeared without a trace. "You bully!" The Water King wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He was no longer as arrogant as before. This move almost made him collapse. "Not only am I bullying you, but I'm also going to kill you." Tang Jing's palm hit the Water King's chest. The Water King flew out like a kite with a broken string, landing beside Suing Tian's feet. Seeing this, Suing Tian hysterically roared and grabbed the Water King's head. With a crack, he directly twisted the Water King's head off, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Seeing Suing Tian's crazed and pained appearance, Tang Jing couldn't help but sigh. This time the blow to Suing Tian was too big. Not only was his nest taken over, even his last remaining subordinates had died in front of him. This kind of blow was too big. Tang Jing even saw Kai Guibin's body among the pile of corpses. Back then he was the second in command of the dragon group, but now he had died at the hands of the dragon group. Xing Feng didn't even let him go. He was truly too vicious. Suing Tian stared blankly at the bloody head in his hand. As if possessed, he muttered to himself, "Brothers, I've taken revenge for you." After a pause he continued, "No, I don't have the right to take revenge for you. My greatest enemy is Xing Feng. Only when he's dead can you rest in peace." Suing Tian had already heard from the Water King that the National Security Bureau had been abolished and merged into the Dragon Group. Now the Dragon Group was the only one in power. Xing Feng's power had reached an unprecedented peak. Wanting to kill Xing Feng was no longer an easy matter, but for the sake of his fallen brothers, Suing Tian resolutely decided to get rid of Xing Feng. In the past he often advised Tang Jing not to lower himself to Xing Feng's level. But now he felt that those words were bullshit. Xing Feng deserved to die. If he didn't kill him, he wasn't human. His eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the other super warriors. He suddenly threw the head in his hand and roared, "Kill!" Then he pounced towards them like a madman. He seemed to have regained his fighting strength once again as he killed his enemies until they threw away their armor. The members of the dragon group were like a group of dragons without a leader as they scattered in all directions. Suing Tian chased after them relentlessly as he roared, "Kill, kill, kill!" Tang Jing and Marshall did not stop either. These super warriors were no longer true soldiers of the country, but Xing Feng's private army. Moreover, they had killed so many people from the National Security Bureau, so killing them was only right. Under the pursuit of the three of them, most of the super warriors did not manage to escape. Chapter 800. Suing Tian fell into a pool of blood. Tang Jing quickly rushed over and found that he was already on his last breath. In the battle just now he had overdrawn his life force. After the battle ended, his life force was exhausted and there was no way to save him. Tang Jing did not think that he would be so decisive. He sighed and regretfully said, "Why do you have to do this?" Suing Tian smiled and weakly said, "The National Security Bureau is my lifeblood. Without it, how can I live in this world? It's just a pity that I didn't fulfill my oath and didn't kill that traitor Xing Feng." Cough, cough, cough. Suing Tian violently coughed as blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. "Don't say any more. I understand. I'll kill Xing Feng. I'll make him pay for the blood of those who died." Tang Jing said resolutely as he gritted his teeth. "Tang Jing, thank you. This time we made such a big fuss that the higher-ups will definitely blame us. You've been implicated by me." Suing Tian was someone from the government and was very clear about the rules of the government. This time, such a major incident had happened in the capital, and with the involvement of the National Security Agency and the Dragon Group, it was definitely a major event that would shock the entire government. Even if Suing Tian was in the right, he would still be punished. It was because he was clear about this point that he couldn't bear to see his brothers die unjustly. Therefore he decided to go on a killing spree and use blood to avenge them. Xing Feng will definitely distort black and white. In this aspect he is much better than you. Therefore you have to be careful. Not only do you have to be careful of Xing Feng, but you also have to be careful of the government. These words were from the bottom of his heart. Tang Jing's heart moved as he heavily nodded. "Chief Su, don't worry. Xing Feng won't be able to jump around for long. I believe you. It's just that when facing the government they have to be courteous. After all, they were blinded by Xing Feng. The chief is still a good leader who empathizes with the suffering of the people." Suing Tian was deeply afraid that Tang Jing would get angry and start a fight with the bureau chief. That would be treason, which would go against Suing Tian's expectations. Moreover, it would also be disadvantageous to Tang Jing. Tang Jing nodded. Although there are many dissatisfactions in this country, overall, it is developing in a good direction. This shows that the general direction of the highest leader is right and good overall. It's just that there are too many people who deceive their superiors and deceive their subordinates. Indeed, we can't completely blame the highest-ranking leader. I understand. It's good that you understand. I won't be able to see the day you stand at the top of the world with my own eyes, but I believe that you will definitely reach that step. Farewell. Suing Tian finished speaking and closed his eyes. "Chief Su, Chief Su." Tang Jing called out loudly, but there was no response. He hurriedly finished his life's journey. Tang Jing's emotions fluctuated and he couldn't help but sigh. He and Su Yingtian had known each other for a few months. Although they didn't meet often, the two trusted each other very much and helped each other solve many problems. Seeing Su Yingtian's tragic end, Tang Jing felt both heartache and anger. If Xing Feng didn't get rid of him, who knew who would be the next to suffer? Moreover, Xing Feng already knew that they had survived, so he would definitely do everything he could to get rid of them. The two sides originally maintained a fragile balance. Now that the balance was broken, the conflict between the two heated up sharply and reached a white-hot stage. Either you die or I die. Tang Jing put all the bodies of the National Security Bureau's people into Sumeru World and then set the place ablaze. The raging fire soared into the sky, and the sirens sounded in the distance. Tang Jing and Marshall quickly left the scene. A moment later they arrived at a dense mountain in the suburbs. After burying everyone they returned to the city. It was early evening and the city was already under martial law. Every street was filled with armed police officers. There were even many plainclothes officers. They were the super soldiers of the Dragon Group. All the passing cars had to be inspected, and the pedestrians were no exception. Tang Jing frowned and said, Xing Feng's movements are really fast. He has already set up an inescapable net to search for us. Xing Feng doesn't know how many of us survived. He is most afraid that we will complain to the imperial court. If that happens, his good days will come to an end. Marshall said angrily. Tang Jing shook his head and said, It's not that simple. You also heard what Chief Su said. If the people at the top know that we are the ones who did this, then we will definitely be punished. Moreover, the people at the top have just entrusted Xing Feng with an important task, so they might not punish him immediately. If that happens, won't people be pointing at us behind our backs and scolding the leader for not being able to see through people? Marshall's eyes lit up and said, You're saying that although the people at the top know what Xing Feng has done, they might still be indifferent and protect him? Tang Jing sneered. Chief Su has been in the official circle all his life. He is blinded by a single leaf and does not see the true face of Lu Shan. As for us outsiders, we can see it the clearest. Marshall asked worriedly, Since the authorities choose to ignore it, what should we do? If the authorities don't want to do it, we'll do it. I don't have as many worries as them. Tang Jing said with killing intent. In the past, the reason why he did not kill Xing Feng was because of his status as an official. If he killed him, it would cause the officials to be dissatisfied and even attack him. In addition, Su Yingtian repeatedly dissuaded him, causing him to temporarily give up on the idea, and both sides were at peace. But now, Su Yingtian was dead and Tang Jing had guessed that the authorities might do something, so he could not just ignore it and wait for death. He had to take action. Getting rid of Xing Feng was a top priority. However, since Chief Su has given us the order, we should consider it as completing his last wish. I will first make a trip to the inner palace and see what the authorities say. Tang Jing changed his tone and said, You're going to the inner palace at night? Tang Jing nodded. I've been there twice, so I'm not unfamiliar with it. Didn't you say that there are experts in the inner palace? Marshall asked worriedly. Tang Jing said resolutely, Even if there are experts, I will still go. Moreover, I am already at the 4th stage of the Golden Core stage, which is equivalent to the 4th stage of the Great Master stage. Even if I were to break into the inner palace at night, I would still have the ability to protect myself. Seeing him so confident, Marshall could only agree and did not forget to remind him, Then you should be more careful. Why don't you go home first? No, I want to go with you. I'll wait for you nearby. If anything happens, I'll support you. Wu Jian said. Tang Jing squeezed her hand and squeezed out a smile. Don't worry, it'll be fine. In the night, the two of them passed through layers of checkpoints and finally arrived near the mysterious courtyard. Tang Jing wanted to break into this courtyard to find the chief and report to him about Xing Feng's actions. Under the night sky, the courtyard was exceptionally quiet. It was completely different from the hustle and bustle of the capital, as if it had come to another world. However, there were endless dangers hidden in the silence. Tang Jing did not climb over the wall. Instead, he soared into the air and steered the War Soul sword to sneak in from a high altitude. The sky was dark, which coincidentally gave Tang Jing the best camouflage. He landed on the roof without anyone noticing, and even his breathing did not make the slightest sound. At this moment, his nerves were already on high alert. The slightest movement could cause a group of people to attack him. The hidden experts of the inner palace would definitely kill him indiscriminately. After all, there were not many good people who broke into the inner palace at night. Most of them were assassins, and assassins who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Tang Jing could already clearly feel a few powerful auras lurking in the dark. He carefully avoided the other party and jumped down from the roof. In a flash he moved along the eaves. The courtyard was not too big, so he did not have to search too hard to find the chief's location. It was easy to say, but in reality only he knew how many hardships and dangers were hidden. If he had not been here before, he would have been completely in the dark. Moreover, he had to avoid the detection of the experts of the inner palace, which was even more difficult. He gently pushed open the window. Creak. The window made an extremely soft sound. Shit. He secretly shouted but did not stop his actions. Instead, he bent his waist and went in through the window. He happened to see the chief sitting behind the desk with his head lowered, reading a book. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Outside the house, a few strong winds blew in from all directions. Tang Jing strode to the desk. The chief coincidentally raised his head. After seeing Tang Jing, a look of surprise flashed across his face. Chief. A voice called out from outside the house. Tang Jing nervously looked at the chief. If he were to call for help, then he would be taken hostage today. The chief's expression quickly returned to normal. He sternly said, "It's okay, you may leave." Chief, someone entered your house. The person outside was obviously not at ease. Leave, this is an order. The chief's tone became more serious. The person outside did not dare to disobey and retreated. However, Tang Jing still felt that they only took a few steps back. They could attack or retreat. If there was another emergency, they would definitely break in without hesitation. Tang Jing, why are you here? The chief frowned and asked. Tang Jing was surprised and said, "You know I'm not dead?" The chief nodded and said, "I didn't know at first. I only found out today. Xing Feng reported it." Xing Feng? A murderous look flashed across Tang Jing's eyes. The person outside the house clearly felt the murderous look and was ready to make a move. The chief also sensed it and frowned even more. He directly asked, "Why did you come to see me in the middle of the night?" Tang Jing looked at him suspiciously and said, "Since Xing Feng came to find you, then did he say anything about me?" He was testing the other party, or perhaps Xing Feng knew a lot about him. Of course he did. Not only you but also Suing Tian. The nature of what you did today is too bad. The chief's tone became even more serious. He placed his hands on the desk and was imposing without being angry. If it was anyone else who saw this kind of superior attitude and aura, they would definitely be scared speechless. However, Tang Jing had the dragon chi and dragon might. If he were to explode out, even the other party would not be able to help but tremble, so how could he be afraid? Chapter 801. The bureau chief looked at Tang Jing and didn't answer the question directly. Instead he asked, "Then do you think I should believe him? If it's a foolish person, he will naturally believe it. If it's a wise person, he will scoff at it," Tang Jing said bluntly. Other people would be in awe of high-ranking officials, but Tang Jing was already holding back his anger. He didn't hold back at all when he spoke. The bureau chief's eyelids twitched and returned to normal. He said earnestly, "Tang Jing, things aren't as simple as you think. You're too young." Tang Jing curled his lips and sneered. "Then you don't believe me? So what if I believe you?" The bureau chief stared at Tang Jing with a burning gaze. "If you believe me, then kill Xing Feng and take revenge for those who died unjustly," Tang Jing said firmly. The bureau chief chuckled. "Is this the result you want? The heavens are clear. Xing Feng brought this upon himself. Why can't I?" Tang Jing retorted. "The heavens, he. The bureau chief laughed meaningfully. "Ask Suing Tian to come and see me. I'll tell him that I'll return everything he lost to him." The government didn't know that Suing Tian was already dead. Tang Jing's expression darkened. "He's dead. Greater than over equal to, dead?" The bureau chief was stunned. Xing Feng's report was that Suing Tian and his gang attacked the dragon team and escaped after killing and arson. Yes, it's all Xing Feng's fault. So, I must get justice for him. Tang Jing's gaze was firm. The bureau chief was slightly moved. "Nonsense. A bunch of people are fooling around. We're all from the same root. Why are you in such a hurry to kill each other?" The bureau chief slammed the desk and said angrily. "Some people don't think that we're all from the same root. We've tolerated him time and time again, but what we got in return was Xing Feng's arrogance. Not only did he abandon his comrades in the middle of the sea and flee, but now he's trying to kill his comrades. This kind of person is a scourge in this world." The bureau chief was silent and his eyes kept changing. As a leader, he was naturally more intelligent than others. From the fact that Suing Tian and the rest had returned to the capital safely, it had already explained many things. Xing Feng's report could not be trusted. There must have been many unknown things happening on the sea. Xing Feng had deliberately concealed the truth. But so what? The government chose to believe Xing Feng's words. If they immediately investigated him, wouldn't it be a slap to their own face? Although they were fighting tigers everywhere and controlling corruption, they could not let the government lose face. Otherwise the gains would not make up for the losses. No one could bear this responsibility. Tang Jing, you go back first. After we've done our research, we'll naturally come up with a countermeasure. We won't let those people die in vain. The bureau chief comforted him. Tang Jing was greatly disappointed. Su Tian was right about this result. The so-called research was just an excuse. They must have weighed the pros and cons. In the end, it was still impossible to conclude what would happen to Xing Feng. Moreover, Xing Feng had the support of a high-ranking official. He would not watch as his people were destroyed. Seeing Tang Jing's nonchalant expression, the bureau chief's eyes turned cold. He said sternly, Tang Jing, Xing Feng is an official. If he has done anything wrong, the government will come to a conclusion and punish him severely. Do you understand? What he meant was to remind Tang Jing not to act rashly. Tang Jing did not comment and said, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Seeing Tang Jing resolutely turn and leave, the bureau chief leaned back and leaned against the leather chair. He pinched his eyebrows and thought to himself. Su Tian had once strongly recommended Tang Jing and felt that the government should rope him in. This person was born and raised under the red flag. He still had feelings for the country. If he could rope in such a strong helper, it would definitely be beneficial to the country. But Tang Jing's only flaw was that he was too undisciplined. He did not have the sense of restraint of a soldier. If he thought of something, he would do it himself. He might not even inform the government. He did not even respect the powerful officials. This was the pros and cons. If it was not used properly, there would be problems. But if it was just right, it would be of great use. But the government had never come to a conclusion on how to treat Tang Jing. Seeing Tang Jing's performance today, the bureau chief regretfully shook his head and drew a big X on the paper. Outside the courtyard, Tang Jing saw Marshal. Marshal immediately asked about the situation. Tang Jing shook his head with a serious expression and said, it's not optimistic. It seems that the government will not touch Xing Feng for the time being. Then what should we do? Tang Jing was silent, but he had already made up his mind. The government would not care, but he would not forget Su Tian's dying instructions. Let's go home first. We've been out for so long this time. They must be very worried. Tang Jing said. When the two of them pushed open the door, everyone was stunned. Their expressions were different, but Nana was the first to react. Her figure flashed and she flew into his embrace. She hugged his neck and rubbed her head non-stop. She was overjoyed and said, "Brother, you're finally back. Nana missed you so much." Looking at her delicate face, the killing intent in his heart was temporarily thrown to the back of his mind. He carried her and walked towards the crowd. Seeing that everyone's expression was strange, he could not help but ask, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Wah. Fang Shishi's tears flowed out of her eyes as she tightly hugged Tang Jing. She and Nana occupied his left and right. "Ooh, I knew you weren't dead. It's great that you're back." Tang Jing was confused. Someone said I was dead? Fang Shishi nodded with tears of joy. The government said you died in battle. I knew they were lying. You promised me that you would come back. You wouldn't lie to me. Tang Jing was shocked. The government had actually judged him as a dead man. They must have been under a lot of pressure. He patted her back and said guiltily, "It's all my fault. Don't cry. Didn't I come back safe and sound?" He gently wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. He was extremely distressed. He looked up at the others and found that apart from the Empyrean fairy, everyone else's eyes were red. This was especially true for Lu Qingmei. Her eyes were filled with tears and her legs were trembling. She wanted nothing more than to throw herself into Tang Jing's arms. But she resisted. After all, there were so many people present and her identity was too special. Princess Anne wiped the corner of her eyes and revealed a relieved smile. "Master said before that you were an unkillable cockroach." She was right. Mu Hongyan's body went soft and sank into the sofa. During this period of time, she had been under more pressure than anyone else. This was because she had a heavy burden on her shoulders. She had to wake up early and sleep late every day. She was so busy. Perhaps only when she was busy could she forget about Tang Jing. Now that she saw him standing in front of her alive, her heart fiercely beat. Many emotions intertwined and mixed together. "I'm really sorry for making everyone worry," Tang Jing said guiltily. Your safe return is the most important. There's no need to say these words. Yes, everyone is happy that you're safe. Everyone was talking at once, but it was difficult to express the joy in their hearts. Only the Empyrean fairy Fu Yao was the calmest. She glanced at him indifferently and then turned her attention to the TV. This was because she had never believed the news of Tang Zheng's death. Fang Shishir was reluctant to leave Tang Zheng. She kept hugging his arm as if she was afraid that in the blink of an eye, he would disappear again. After confirming that all this was not a dream, her heart felt a lot more at ease. The corner of her mouth hung a smile of regaining what she had lost. Everyone gathered together. Tang Zheng asked in detail about what had happened during this period of time. When he learned that his death had caused so many disturbances, he could not help but sigh. If he did not show up, he was afraid that there would really be a big problem. Those who were lurking in the dark would really not be able to hold back and take action. Perhaps it would even endanger their safety. Sister Mu, you've worked hard during this period of time. You've supported all the matters of the group. Tang Zheng said sincerely. Mu Hongyan recovered her mood. She smiled faintly and said, "This is not just my credit. There is the support of all the colleagues in the company. In addition, in the end, I need the help of the Yan family, Yi Tianlei and Qingmei. Only then can I persist and let the company operate normally." Tang Zheng nodded. He already knew that Yi Tianlei and Lu Qingmei had also joined the group. In fact, he was not very relieved that Lu Qingmei was working in other places. After all, the workplace was like a battlefield. There were too many traps. He was not willing to let Lu Qingmei take risks. But in the past she did a good job, so it was not easy to persuade her to come to his group. This time she actually took the initiative to join, which was an unexpected surprise. Tang Zheng's head warmed. He nodded towards Lu Qingmei and said, "Sister Mei, thank you." His relationship with Lu Qingmei was not made public, so it was not good to be too intimate in front of everyone. Lu Qingmei suppressed the impulse in her heart and pretended to be calm as she said, "This is what I should do." Finished speaking, she looked at Tang Zheng and smiled affectionately. All the words and affection were vividly expressed in this smile. Tang Zheng understood her smile and wished that he could immediately hug her tightly in his arms. Fang Shishir looked at the two thoughtfully but did not say anything. She was a smart girl and remembered everything. Of course, she guessed some things but did not point it out. As long as Tang Zheng was by her side, it was the greatest satisfaction. Subconsciously, she hugged Tang Zheng tighter and let his arm press on her chest. "Brother, Nana is also very powerful. I didn't slack off. Master often praises me for my great progress." Seeing others chatting enthusiastically with Tang Zheng, Nana did not want to fall behind and said, "Really?" Tang Zheng pretended to be surprised and asked. In fact, when he entered the door, he saw the changes in her body. She was already a real cultivator. At such a young age, she had already reached the 6th grade of the foundation establishment stage. It must be known that she had not been apprenticed for long. Even Tang Zheng did not have such a fast cultivation speed. He could not help but admire her. If he had taught Nana at the beginning, he would not have such a good effect. The Empyrean fairy could be said to have devoted all her efforts to Nana. A famous teacher produces a brilliant student. The sentence was really true. Nana's progress could be said to be heaven-defying. It seemed that the Empyrean fairy was not lying. Nana's physique was indeed suitable for cultivation. However, although her cultivation was high, she was still young, so she did not have much attack power. Chapter 802. Fang Shishir suppressed her shyness and invited Tang Zheng to her room. Tang Zheng certainly would not refuse. Seeing her tear-stained face, he felt very distressed. However, he still took the time to sneak into Lu Qingmei's room. The two people tightly hugged each other and kissed passionately. Then Lu Qingmei buried her head in his chest and told him about her lovesickness. "Okay, I'll go out quickly. Otherwise, someone will be waiting anxiously." After being warm for a while, Lu Qingmei sourly said, "Sister Mei." Tang Zheng's heart was sour. "Don't act like a little girl. You are a man, I understand. Go, don't tell me you don't even listen to your teacher's words?" Lu Qingmei deliberately said with a straight face. Tang Zheng hugged her and gave her a French kiss before slipping out. Fang Shishir had already finished washing up and was lying on the bed. Seeing him tiptoeing in, she pointed to the bathroom and said, "Go take a bath." Tang Zheng quickly took a bath and got into bed. Fang Shishir was like a kitten, docilely lying on his chest and gently rubbing his chest. Tang Zheng's hand also moved around her smooth skin. "Your student status has been cancelled. You can go to the school tomorrow to restore it." Fang Shishir felt the big hand passing over every inch of her skin and said in a low voice. Tang Jing was stunned for a moment and said, "The school's action is quite fast." He paused for a moment and said, "Since it has been cancelled, there is no need." No need? Fang Shishir propped up her arms, the scenery of her chest was clearly visible as she stared at him and asked. "Yes, I didn't go to the university for any certificate. It was just a kind of experience and to complete my grandfather's wish. But now my life's focus is not on the school. Moreover, I feel that the matter of the demon race is not that simple. 100 Faces Star-Lord has not appeared. I don't know what kind of conspiracy he is brewing. Since the school has revoked my student status, then I'll take this opportunity to end my university career." "This, have you thought it through?" Fang Shishir asked hesitantly. Most of her attention was still on her studies. She couldn't completely understand Tang Jing's thoughts, but she respected his choice. "I've already decided." Fang Shishir didn't try to persuade him any further. "All right then." Tang Jing attacked her. Gradually, Fang Shishir's skin became hot. She hugged his neck, her eyes were full of lust and her breath smelled like orchids. She whispered, "Want me?" Spring nights were short, but many people could not sleep in the endless night. Xing Feng was flustered and exasperated, his face ashen. The ground was a mess. Who knew how many things had been destroyed? The others lowered their heads and kept quiet out of fear. Rice buckets, a bunch of rice buckets. So many people failed to deal with those few people. Water King and Wind King even died. Truly useless rice buckets. Xing Feng was like an enraged wild beast, roaring angrily again and again. The Thunder King's face was dispirited. He wanted to say something but hesitated. This matter was out of his expectations. He hadn't thought that these people would actually not die and even return to the capital. When he had first heard this news, he had been shocked. However, after hearing Xing Feng methodically arrange for an ambush to kill these people, his heart settled back into his stomach. However, the final result was that the dragon group was almost completely annihilated. It didn't matter if some people died, but the other party had still escaped. This was a big problem. Xing Feng glanced at the Thunder King and said, "If you have something to say, say it." "Group leader, now that Tang Zheng and the others have escaped, what do we do?" "Run." The Thunder King asked cautiously. "Run my ass. By the time you know how to run, it'll be too late." Xing Feng pointed above and said, "The higher-ups have already sent news. Tang Zheng has already gone to see the chief, and the two of them have been talking behind closed doors for a long time." The Thunder King gasped. Xing Feng actually had eyes and ears in the inner palace. This was too amazing and even more so, disgraceful. However, he was immediately scared out of his wits. His legs went weak and he said in a trembling voice, "The chief already knows? Then aren't we finished?" "How can I, Xing Feng, be finished just like that?" Xing Feng said resolutely. "I've always told you to be smarter. Why are you still so stupid? If the chief wanted to touch me, we would have long been surrounded. How could we still be standing here unscathed?" The Thunder King thought about it. That was indeed the case. Confused, he asked, "Then what exactly is going on?" Xing Feng's expression fluctuated. "I've only just been promoted. Even if the higher-ups know of my actions, they can't possibly deal with me so quickly. This would be slapping their own faces. The higher-ups care about face the most, and they definitely won't do something like slapping their own faces. Thus, even if Tang Zheng goes to lodge a complaint, I'm still safe for the time being." Xing Feng was indeed a wily old fox in the officialdom. He was well versed in the ways of officialdom, and his guess was actually pretty close to the mark. The Thunder King was still on tenterhooks. "But they'll definitely settle the score at an opportune time. At that time we'll be in trouble." Xing Feng laughed coldly. "Settle the score at an opportune time? They'll have to wait." The Thunder King looked at him in suspicion, seemingly deep in thought. "Tell the subordinates to keep a close eye on him. It's not good for Tang Zheng to stay here for long. He must be eliminated," Xing Feng ordered. "Yes." The Thunder King nodded in acknowledgement. At the same time, the Song family gathered together, all of their expressions unsightly. The Song family had many eyes and ears, and they were all shocked when they heard that Tang Zheng wasn't dead. Tang Zheng's return to the capital meant that the Song family's good days were about to come to an end. Song Yu's injuries were more or less healed. His face was ashen, and he gritted his teeth without saying a word. Song Jianan glanced at him and said, Is there any news from Sword Pavilion?" "I just received news that Sword Pavilion has already sent people to the capital to pick up eldest senior brother's body in a few days," Song Yu said. Who did Sword Pavilion send? Song Jianan's expression changed as he asked. Song Yu shook his head. I don't know for now. Song Jianan let out a long sigh and said, if the people from Sword Pavilion are strong enough, then we can work together to get rid of Tang Zheng. Then the Song family will be safe. Otherwise we can't just go back to hiding, right? The dignified head of the Song family was actually living like a mouse, hiding here and there and not daring to show his face. This was not only sullen but also a great humiliation. Song Yu nodded firmly. You're right. I hope Sword Pavilion sends an expert this time. It's best if His Excellency Sword God comes in person, Song Jianan said. Many of the other well-informed people found out that Tang Zheng did not die that night and returned safely. Many of the people who were ready to make a move quieted down. Tang Zheng's name was well known enough that no one dared to look down on him. Similarly, many people had already learned about the return of the demon race. Naturally they were shocked. But because of the false news brought back by Xing Feng, these people thought that the demon race had been wiped out and did not pay attention to this matter. The next day Tang Zheng, Mu Hongyan and Lu Qingmei came to the group together. As soon as they appeared they caused a big sensation. The ordinary staff did not know Tang Zheng's identity, but the core staff knew that Tang Zheng was their real boss. When they saw him standing in front of them alive they were all shocked. Then their morale was greatly boosted, and their hearts were put back into their stomachs. Tang Zheng's purpose of this trip was to appease people, so he had to make this trip. After listening to a simple report, he found that all the business was proceeding normally. Although the situation in Europe was not satisfactory, Tang Zheng did not care too much. Those European royal families had gone back on their words. He would settle this account with them later. Tang Linger was not in the company. It was said that she had recently participated in the shooting of a movie and was in full swing with the crew. Tang Zheng was slightly relieved. Tang Linger did not know about Tang Zheng's death, so she was not distracted. Her career was rising rapidly and she had already gained some fame in the country. After chatting with Yi Tianlei for a while, Yi Tianlei earnestly asked Tang Zheng to take a look at Yi Dingdang. Tang Zheng's heart thumped as he asked, "What happened to Dingdang? During this period of time she did not eat or drink. She missed you very much. It was as if her soul had been taken away." Yi Tianlei thought of his daughter's state and could not help but sigh. Tang Zheng felt a pain in his heart. Damn Xing Feng, spreading false news of his death and implicating so many people. He could not help but blame himself. He had thought too simply. So many people were worried about him, but he had gone missing. He was really too irresponsible. After leaving the company, Tang Zheng anxiously went to Yi Dingdang's new home. This new home was completely incomparable to the Ye family's courtyard house or ordinary Balance's villa. It was completely an ordinary family of 3 with 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. It was Tang Zheng's first time coming to the Ye family. After knocking on the door he saw Feng Xinyang. Feng Xinyang opened her eyes in surprise and was overjoyed. "Little handsome, you are not dead." "Ah, I knew it. Heaven helps the worthy. How could you die? Those gossiping guys are too hateful." During this period of time, her daughter had suffered and suffered because of the news of Tang Zheng's death. She saw it with her own eyes and felt pain in her heart, but there was no cure. When she saw Tang Zheng standing in front of her alive, she knew that all the pain was over. "And Feng, is Dingdang here?" Yes, come in quickly. She is in the bedroom. I will take you there." Feng Xinyang's eyes were red. She hurriedly led Tang Zheng to Yi Dingdang's door. "Dingdang, come out quickly. Look who is here." Feng Xinyang knocked on the door and said, "I don't want to see anyone." Yi Dingdang's weak voice came out. Tang Zheng had a headache. How did Yi Dingdang, who used to be lively and cheerful, become so weak? "I will go out for a while. You accompany her." Feng Xinyang patted Tang Zheng's shoulder and whispered. Then she left the house. Tang Zheng stood in front of the door, took a deep breath and said, "Dingdang, is it me?" The room fell into a dead silence. "Dingdang, why are you not talking? Open the door." Creak. The door was suddenly pulled open. A thin figure rushed out. Her hair was a little messy, she looked tired and her eyes were dim. But when she saw Tang Zheng, she gradually regained her spirit. Yi Dingdang stared straight at Tang Zheng. Her tears were like 2 strings of pearls. Her lips twitched and she could hardly believe what she saw. Chapter 803. Seeing the soulless and incomparably haggard Yi Dingdang, Tang Zheng's heart was filled with tenderness. He immediately pulled her into his embrace and was reluctant to let go. He wished he could rub her into his body. "Dingdang, you've suffered," Tang Zheng emotionally said. Yi Dingdang hugged his waist and buried her head in his chest. Smelling the familiar scent on his body, her entire body trembled as she choked out, "You're not dead. You're finally back." "Yes, I'm not dead. I still want to see you, so how could I bear to die? But do you know how worried I was about you?" Yi Dingdang's voice rose a few octaves as she punched Tang Zheng's back. Then, her fists were like raindrops as they hit Tang Zheng. "You're too bad. Why didn't you come back when you were fine? You made me worry for so long. I even have the heart to die. My heart is broken." Although the fists hit his body, he felt that Yi Dingdang's heart was 1,000 times more painful than this. He couldn't help but feel like his heart was being cut by a knife. The fists stopped. Yi Dingdang seemed to have collapsed as she laid on top of Tang Zheng's body. "Your body is weak. Lie down for a while," Tang Zheng advised. Yi Dingdang had lost a lot of weight and he almost couldn't recognize her. "Carry me over," Yi Dingdang said coquettishly. She had been with Tang Zheng for so long, but she had never used such a coquettish tone before, so it sounded very charming. Tang Zheng smiled and carried her up by the waist. Yi Dingdang wrapped her arms around his neck as she stared into his eyes. She had fantasized countless times before about him hugging her so intimately. Now that her dream had come true, her heart was filled with sweet warmth. After experiencing this life and death separation, she thought of many questions. If she had agreed to be with him earlier, she wouldn't have this regret. Perhaps, if he had her by his side, he might not have died. Even if he died, it would be a great blessing to have her by his side. As for Tang Zheng's romantic debt, she chose to ignore it. Moreover, there was another voice in her heart that defended him. There were thousands of successful men in the world, and this kind of man would definitely attract the attention of many women. This was not all his fault. Moreover, during this period of time in the capital, she had seen the behavior of many men in the big families. They were even more unscrupulous than Tang Zheng. In comparison, Tang Zheng appeared to be more outstanding. Therefore, the conflict in her heart was dissolving bit by bit. She silently swore that if she could see Tang Zheng again, she would definitely not dwell on those questions anymore. Although she still hadn't gotten over the hurdle in her heart, she didn't want to think about it for the time being. She just wanted to be with Tang Zheng and couldn't bear to part with him again. "Kiss me." Lying on the bed, Yi Dingdang closed her eyes and said with a red face. Tang Zheng was slightly stunned. He didn't expect her to be so proactive. Looking at the beautiful face so close to him, he couldn't help but kiss it. Yi Dingdang responded in a jerky and intense manner. Her whole body went soft as if it had turned into water. Her breath was like orchids as she gasped for breath. She gradually opened her eyes and stared at Tang Zheng with her dark eyes. It was as if she wanted to imprint his appearance in her heart and never erase it. "Tang Zheng, I love you," Yi Dingdang said. Tang Zheng shook his head and excitedly kissed her. The two rolled together on the bed. "Tang Zheng, I will give my body to you. I want to truly belong to you and have you," Yi Dingdang whispered into Tang Zheng's ear. Tang Zheng had fantasized about this day before, but he didn't expect it to come so suddenly. He couldn't help but be stunned. But looking at her burning eyes and haggard appearance, he was both happy and distressed. He stroked her cheeks and said, "You are too tired. You need to rest well. This matter isn't urgent." Yi Dingdang stared at him without backing down. She stubbornly said, "No, I want it." After saying this, she tyrannically tore at Tang Zheng's clothes. With the beauty taking the initiative and being so affectionate, Tang Zheng really couldn't find a reason to refuse. Yi Dingdang's performance was very wild but also very unfamiliar. Very quickly, she stripped Tang Zheng naked, and then admired his strong physique. Her face was so red that it seemed like it was going to drip blood, and her heart was beating fast, but she still resisted the shyness in her heart, and took the initiative to gently stroke Tang Zheng. A moment later, the two met each other and became one. Yi Dingdang felt pain and bit Tang Zheng's shoulder. A row of teeth marks were clearly visible. After the battle, Yi Dingdang wrapped her arms and legs around Tang Zheng like an octopus. The corners of her mouth hung in a satisfied smile. Tang Zheng let out a long breath. Yi Dingdang's wildness was beyond his imagination. Although it was her first time tasting the forbidden fruit, because the foundation and flexibility of a martial artist's body were very good, the battle just now was really to their heart's content. They had reached a state where they forgot about everything else. At this moment, there was only each other in their eyes and hearts. It was difficult for them to tolerate anything else. Yi Dingdang gently touched the teeth marks on his shoulder and asked in distress, "Does it hurt?" Tang Zheng foolishly smiled and shook his head. "It doesn't hurt. You deserve it. Who told you to use so much strength?" It's my first time, so I don't know how painful it is. Yi Dingdang said with a pout. Yes, I deserve it. Tang Jing hugged her tightly and said with pity. This is my mark, do you know? Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could only nod. I know your mark. From now on you're mine. Humph, I'll see how you explain yourself if other people see it. Yi Dingdang said mischievously. With this intimate relationship between the two, that layer of barrier was finally pierced through. Their intimacy became a lot more natural. I'm yours and you're mine. Tang Jing gently kissed her forehead and said with a smile. Yi Dingdang's lips curled up and sweetly smiled. She affectionately hugged him. At this moment, silence was better than words. The soft sound of the door opening rang out. As if their pressure points had been pressed, their bodies stiffened and then their expressions greatly changed. My mom is back. Hurry and put on your clothes. Seeing her flustered appearance, Tang Jing couldn't help but laugh. Still laughing. It's all your fault. If she finds out, I won't let you off. It's fine even if she finds out. Tang Jing said mischievously. Be smart later. Don't let her find out. Yi Dingdang fiercely glared at him and warned. Feng Xinyang entered the house and found the bedroom door closed. She didn't disturb them and went into the kitchen to get busy. If she barged in, she would definitely see a scene not suitable for children. The two neatly dressed and walked out. Feng Xinyang didn't turn her head and said, You two play for a while. I'll call you when I'm done cooking. And Feng, let me help you. No need. You two go play. Spend more time with Dingdang. Tang Jing quietly whispered in Yi Dingdang's ear, It seems your mom didn't find out. Yi Dingdang fiercely pinched him and said, You're not allowed to say it. Tang Jing chuckled. He was happy and sweet. But time was short. In the evening he left the Ye family. Yi Dingdang reluctantly sent him downstairs and kissed him passionately before letting him go. Tang Jing didn't go home. His figure flashed and disappeared into the night. His eyes flashed with a biting cold-killing intent. It was like he was a different person from before. Xing Feng, if the government doesn't punish you, then I will personally take action and take revenge for Chief Su. This was the decision he made after leaving the courtyard house that represented power yesterday. If Xing Feng didn't die, he wouldn't be able to answer to Chief Su's spirit in heaven. Moreover, he knew that Xing Feng wouldn't leave the matter at that. Since that was the case, he might as well make the first move. This trip would definitely be dangerous. So he didn't even tell anyone about it. He was prepared to act alone. In the night he was like a ghost. He blended into the night and no one could detect him. The Dragon Group's base in Beijing wasn't in the city. Instead, it was in an air raid shelter in the suburbs. This air raid shelter was a product of the last century. It was specially built to prevent nuclear attacks. It was practically hollowed out. There wasn't anything strange from the outside, but it was a completely different world inside. This place was reused after the establishment of the Dragon Group. Furthermore, it had undergone complicated modifications. Su Yingtian had briefly introduced it to Tang Jing. That was why Tang Jing was able to find the place. However, when he saw the flawless base that was blended into the mountain, he couldn't help but frown. This was because he couldn't find a place to enter. This was simply an ordinary mountain. It wasn't eye-catching. There wasn't even a fence. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely treat this as a barren mountain. However, Tang Jing knew that there was a completely different world inside. No, I must think of a way to enter. Suddenly, a beam of car light shot over from afar. Tang Jing quickly bent his waist and hid in the bushes. He watched as a car drove to the front of the mountain. Tang Jing's eyes lit up. The heavens were helping him. This was definitely a member of the Dragon Group. Then he could take this opportunity to sneak in. With a clear sound, the mountain slowly moved to both sides, revealing a huge door. The door rose and the car drove in. Tang Jing took the opportunity and rushed in like lightning. He directly laid down under the car's chassis and hid. The people in the car didn't see anything. The door closed again and the mountain returned to normal. Tang Jing felt that he was falling. Elevator. Tang Jing immediately understood. The base was not only in the mountain but also underground. He had to use this elevator to enter. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. There was probably a camera in the elevator. If he didn't act fast enough, he wouldn't be able to fool the person behind the camera. His guess was right. Just now there was only a shadow flashing on the screen. After that, everything returned to normal. The monitoring personnel didn't notice anything. Otherwise the alarm would have gone off. Ding. The elevator stopped. The car started and drove out of the elevator. Tang Jing was like a gecko lying under the car's chassis. He glanced outside. He could vaguely see that the base was very big. It was like an underground city. The car drove into the garage. The sound of the door closing could be heard. Then several people left together. Everything was quiet. Tang Jing confirmed that there was no one around. Then he quietly climbed out from under the car. Chapter 804. The underground parking lot was filled with cars, tanks, armored vehicles, and even helicopters. There was a dazzling array of vehicles just like an arsenal. Maybe there are mechas here too, Tang Jing guessed. With his current cultivation he was not afraid of mechas, and these weapons were not much of a threat to him. The most important thing now was to find Xingfeng. Dong dong. Footsteps were heard. He hurriedly hid and found a person walking over alone. He strode forward and chopped the person's neck with his hand. The person immediately fell down. He changed into the person's clothes, wiped his face, and used an illusion to change into the person's appearance. Then he swaggered out. Just now, he had used the soul-searching technique to grab enough information from the person's mind to know where Xingfeng's office was. But as for whether Xingfeng was in the base today, the person did not know. Tang Jing followed the map and quickly passed through layers of checkpoints and arrived at the core area. Suddenly, Tang Jing's pupils shrank as he saw a few behemoths, demon beasts. The demon beasts were locked in huge glass containers. Some were sleeping, some were struggling, and their bodies were connected with various wires. Tang Jing had once heard Kai Guibin mention that the success of the Super Soldier and Mecha project was due to the demon beasts. Because the demon beasts' inner cores provided enough energy, and the demon beasts' bodies and blood provided research materials for the transformation of super soldiers. In short, without these demon beasts, the dragon group would not be as powerful as it was today. Xingfeng is really amazing. He actually caught so many demon beasts from the 100,000 mountains. Tang Jing secretly praised. There was no way to go deep into the 100,000 mountains. Xingfeng spent a lot of effort to catch these demon beasts at the edge of the 100,000 mountains. Then these demon beasts became Xiao Bai's mice. They could neither live nor die. Their bodies were thoroughly studied. After a simple glance, Tang Jing prepared to pass through this area. After passing through another checkpoint, he would reach Xingfeng's office. Beep. The pass card in Tang Jing's hand failed, and the red light of the entrance control lit up. Previously, his heart was unimpeded, all because of this pass card. The sudden failure caught Tang Jing off guard. Which department are you from? Is this a place where you can come? A group of people immediately surrounded him and questioned him fiercely. The dragon group had a strict hierarchy, and the person that Tang Jing was impersonating was clearly not of a high enough level. He was so close, but there was nothing he could do. Tang Jing was unwilling to accept this. Seeing the suspicious looks in the eyes of this group of people, Tang Jing knew that it was useless to continue acting. He simply struck like lightning, and this group of people fell to the ground one after another. He casually picked up a person's pass, but he still couldn't swipe open the access control. The people in the distance had already seen the situation here, and they all rushed over while shouting. "We can't wait any longer. We can only use force." Tang Jing pulled out Battle Soul, and with a move of transcendent flying immortal, the powerful and heavy Battle Soul fiercely chopped at the iron door. Like cutting tofu, the iron door was split into two halves. Tang Jing dashed in with a tap of his toes. What greeted him was a super soldier. Da-da-da. Bullets were fired at an angle, directly greeting Tang Jing. Ding ding ding. All the bullets hit the sacred armor shield. Tang Jing held the sacred armor shield in one hand and Battle Soul in the other. He was invincible, and one by one the super soldiers fell at his feet. "Tang Jing, it's actually you." Tang Jing had already recovered his true appearance. A thunderous shout rang out, and the Thunder King welcomed him. Tang Jing's pupils constricted, and he was overjoyed. The Thunder King was Xingfeng's #1 lackey, and since he was here, it was very likely that Xingfeng was here as well. His guess was not wrong, Xingfeng was indeed here. Ever since he found out that Tang Jing was not dead, he had been on guard against Tang Jing. He even moved back to the base from the city. After all, there were many people here and their equipment was complete so they could better protect him. Who would have thought that by chance this would fulfill Tang Jing's wish? Otherwise, in such a big capital, it would not be easy for him to find Xingfeng. When he saw Tang Jing barging in like a god of death, Xingfeng turned pale with fright. He thought to himself, how did he find this place? What guts! Even the government was temporarily not doing anything to him, but Tang Jing actually dared to do the opposite, personally killing his way to his door. Xingfeng sighed at Tang Jing's audacity. He was both furious and delighted. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it and barge into hell. Since you've come to my territory, don't even think about escaping. Xing Feng swaggered to his feet and roared, "Kill him! Tear him into pieces!" A large group of super soldiers rushed in, surrounding Tang Zheng so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. This small space was already filled with people, and Tang Zheng could not escape even if he had wings. Xing Feng laughed coldly, pleased with himself, and hurriedly retreated far away. He crossed his arms, calmly watching the show. Tang Zheng locked onto Xing Feng from afar, and the stone in his heart fell to the ground. It seemed that he had made the right choice this time. However, if he wanted to get rid of Xing Feng, he would have to go through the Thunder King and the other super soldiers. Without a doubt, this would be a tough battle. The Thunder King was a second-grade grandmaster. Moreover, he had the help of so many super soldiers. He was full of confidence as he shouted, "Everyone disperse. Let me deal with him." After saying that, he casually pointed his finger, and a burst of thunder exploded. Then a thumb-sized bolt of lightning shot out from his finger, attacking Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's head trembled. The other party could actually shoot out lightning. No wonder he was called the Thunder King. The four heavenly kings really had their own strengths. In the future, their strength would probably be even stronger. In fact, in terms of ability to control lightning, the Thunder Cloud Beast was definitely above the Thunder King. It was a pity that the Thunder Cloud Beast was not here. Otherwise they could have competed. Although the Thunder King's momentum was terrifying, Tang Zheng did not cower in the slightest. Seeing the lightning attack, he fiercely thrusted out his sword, and the lightning struck the War Soul sword. The lightning was like a maggot in a tarsal bone, following the sword blade to Tang Zheng's arm. Bang! A burst of green smoke rose. Half of Tang Zheng's sleeve was burned off, and his skin turned charred black. If he hadn't immediately used his true chi to stop the lightning, it would have flowed through his entire body, causing fatal damage to him. It seems that the War Spirit sword will be at a disadvantage against his lightning technique. Tang Zheng simply put away the War Spirit sword and dealt with the Thunder King with his bare hands. Seeing this, the Thunder King laughed complacently, "Tang Zheng, this is just the appetizer. The main course is still behind. Enjoy it." Tang Zheng curled his lips and said, "If you have any ability, then take it out. Otherwise you won't have a chance in the future." The Thunder King coldly snorted and said with an ashen face, "Then let's see who dies and who dies." The Thunder King leaped into the air and flicked his finger. Crackling sounds rang out non-stop as 10 bolts of lightning descended from the sky. In an instant, they covered the lights in the room as if they were scorching suns in the sky. The other super soldiers all retreated, afraid that they would be implicated. As the 10 bolts of lightning descended, Tang Zheng raised the holy armor shield. Ping ping ping. The lightning struck the holy armor shield. The holy armor shield was a tortoise shell and didn't conduct electricity. Lightning flashed and gathered on the holy armor shield. "Go!" Tang Zheng roared. His true chi fluctuated and directly shattered the lightning bolts, disappearing without a trace. Seeing this, the Thunder King's mouth twitched. He said coldly, "I don't believe that you can block all of them." After saying this, his hands grabbed at the air. Pa pa, a bolt of lightning as thick as an arm gradually formed between his hands. The lightning flashed like a huge electric python, descending from the sky and pouncing toward Tang Zheng. The lightning still landed on the holy armor shield. However, it really slithered like a python, instantly passing through the holy armor shield and flying toward Tang Zheng's arm. This wasn't like the small lightning bolt from before. The power it contained was 100 times stronger. Tang Zheng didn't dare to let it touch his body. He reacted quickly and used the sky-swallowing technique. A black hole immediately appeared in his palm, and a huge suction force directly sucked the lightning bolt into the black hole. Immediately, one end of the lightning bolt was in Tang Zheng's palm, while the other end was in the Thunder King's palm. The two of them stared at each other from afar, glaring at each other furiously. What kind of technique is this?" The Thunder King turned pale with fright. He had never seen such an ability before. Tang Zheng breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the sky-swallowing technique was just right to deal with the Thunder King. Therefore he walked toward the Thunder King step by step, shortening the distance between them. The two of them were still connected by that huge bolt of lightning. The huge suction force even spread out along the lightning bolt, reaching the Thunder King's palm. "Quickly let go." The Thunder King knew that things weren't good. He wanted to immediately remove the lightning bolt, but he found that it was impossible. That suction force was connected to him, making it impossible for him to break free. Tang Jing also gradually realized this point and was overjoyed. The sky-swallowing technique was indeed amazing. It didn't disappoint him. Seeing Tang Jing approaching step by step, the Thunder King shouted in panic, "What are you guys still standing there for? Quickly stop him." The super warrior was very depressed. "Didn't you tell us not to make a move?" Swoosh swoosh swoosh. However, no one dared to complain. All of them rushed toward Tang Jing, trying to surround him to rescue him. Seeing this, Tang Jing chuckled and let out a deep bellow. He waved his arm, causing the lightning bolt to move as well. The Thunder King also flew up. Like a meteor hammer, it swept toward the super warriors who were rushing toward him. Bang bang bang. Pa pa pa. The Thunder King crashed into the super warriors. The Thunder King cried out in pain, and the super warriors were all sent flying. The power of the lightning was even greater. Once it swept past the super warriors, they would be turned into charcoal. Their bodies would tremble, emitting black smoke, and they would fall to the ground, dead. Tang Jing was astonished. This Thunder King's lightning was indeed powerful. If he were to be hit by it, he wouldn't be in a good state either. Tang Jing, quickly put me down. I'm going to kill you. The Thunder King howled at the top of his lungs. This was really a great humiliation. To think that he was being used as a weapon to deal with his own people. Tang Jing chuckled and said, "You want to come down, right? Then I'll do as you wish." After saying that, he crazily circulated the sky-swallowing technique, and the lightning bolt was rapidly sucked into the black hole. The Thunder King was immediately pulled before Tang Jing. The Thunder King was already exhausted. His face was covered in blood, and it was unknown how many of his bones were broken. He grimaced in pain, looking like a demon. Chapter 805. Seeing the Thunder King being swallowed up by the black hole, not only were the others shocked, but even Tang Jing was extremely astonished. This was because the sky-devouring technique could only absorb inanimate objects in the past. It had never sacrificed a living being before. Why would the Thunder King be swallowed up by the black hole? Could it be the effect of the latter half of the sky-devouring technique? That must be it. Tang Jing nodded silently. After completing the sky-devouring technique, its might was even greater than before. If it could even absorb living beings, then its might would increase tremendously. What's going on? Yeah, why did the Thunder King disappear? Everyone started to discuss spiritedly. They subconsciously took a few steps back, increasing the distance between them and Tang Jing. They were deeply afraid that they would also be swallowed up by that black hole. Tang Jing looked up, but no one was looking at him. Where was Xing Feng? Suddenly, Tang Jing's eyes narrowed. He actually couldn't find Xing Feng's figure in the crowd. Damn it, he actually ran away. Tang Jing stomped his feet hatefully. Xing Feng must have taken advantage of the intense battle between him and the Thunder King to slip away. Scram. Tang Jing rushed into the crowd and roared. Many people subconsciously retreated, but there were still a few who tried to block him, but they were knocked far away. Without a leader, no one dared to block him. Tang Jing rushed out like a whirlwind, leaving behind a group of people staring at each other. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew over. He looked up and actually saw a sky full of stars. The mountain above him actually split down the middle, and a loud boom came from above. An airplane. Tang Jing locked onto the small dot in the sky with a single glance. It was actually an airplane. He didn't have time to marvel at the grand design of this base. He guessed that Xing Feng must have escaped by plane. This person's ability to escape was really top-notch. Escaping in the sea, he didn't even want his own base. He was fleeing in panic like a stray dog. This wasn't enough to satisfy Tang Jing. What he wanted was Xing Feng's life. Xiaobai, come out. Let's chase. He quickly summoned Xiaobai and sat on it. He soared into the air and gave chase. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Two silhouettes streaked across the sky like meteors. The speed of the plane was extremely fast. Xiaobai was naturally not slow, but it was not so easy to catch up in a short time. Xiaobai, we must catch up to him this time. Otherwise, if he hides, it won't be so easy to find him next time. Tang Jing patted Xiaobai's head and exhorted. Xiaobai squeaked and nodded. From dusk to dawn, the two sides circled in the air. The plane tried to shake off Tang Jing, but in the end, it found that it was all in vain. Xiaobai was quite energetic. Although he couldn't catch up with the plane for the time being, he could keep up with it from afar. There was no way to shake him off. Beep beep. Suddenly, Tang Jing's cell phone rang. It turned out to be a call without a number displayed. He was very surprised. This was his private phone number. Ordinary people would not have this number. Moreover, it was even stranger that there was no number displayed. However, he still answered the call. His body was in midair. The sound of the wind blew into the phone. He could only hear a dignified voice intermittently coming from the phone. This voice was very familiar. Tang Jing immediately recognized that it was the bureau chief. He was shocked. Why did the bureau chief call so early in the morning? Tang Jing, what are you doing? The bureau chief asked angrily. Tang Jing instantly guessed the purpose of the call, but pretended not to know and asked, Bureau chief, what do you mean? Tang Jing, where are you? I order you to immediately stop all your bad behavior. The bureau chief gave the order without hesitation. Tang Jing raised his eyebrows. He was not a soldier under the bureau chief. Why would he listen to his orders? Thus, he said in a neutral tone, Sorry, I still have something to do. Are you still chasing after Xing Feng? The bureau chief was angry. Tang Jing actually disobeyed the order. Yes. Tang Jing said straightforwardly, Since justice cannot be done, then I can only do it myself. You are ignoring the country's big picture. Tang Jing chuckled and said, Is the country's big picture protecting a villain like Xing Feng? Why would the country protect him? It's just that we won't touch him for the time being. The country has overall considerations. Tang Jing said lightly, Sorry, I'm not an official. I don't understand so many principles. I only understand that Xing Feng must die to avenge Chief Su and the others who died. You have no respect for discipline. The bureau chief said angrily. I am a free person. Your so-called discipline can't control me. You don't need to persuade me anymore and don't need to order me righteously. It's useless. Goodbye. Tang Jing hung up the phone. If other people knew that he dared to hang up on the bureau chief, they would definitely scold him for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Tang Jing clenched his teeth and stared at the plane in front of him. He thought bitterly, Your government doesn't do anything, but that doesn't mean that I don't care. If Xing Feng is allowed to continue, who knows how many more people will be harmed by him. Xing Feng sat in the plane with an ashen face. He looked at the surveillance camera from time to time. That familiar figure made him gnash his teeth in hatred. Damn that Tang Jing. He actually rode that beast and chased after me. I can't shake him off no matter what. Fine, since it's like this, then let's go to the desert in the Great Northwest. I have a lot of troops there. They may not be Tang Jing's opponent. Whoosh! The plane flew over the desert and headed straight for its destination. From afar, one could see the towering tree of life. Its branches and leaves covered the sky. The vast desert had completely changed. It had turned into an oasis of life with green trees and blooming flowers. It was exceptionally beautiful. Xing Feng also found it hard to believe when he saw this scene from the plane. Although his subordinates had reported the situation to him, seeing it with his own eyes was a different matter. He smacked his lips and stared at the tree of life. He muttered to himself, What kind of harvest will I get if I can crack the mystery of it? He couldn't imagine it. Suddenly his pupils shrank. He looked down from the sky and saw a slight fluctuation in the space around the tree of life. What's going on? He had an idea and immediately ordered his subordinates to check the source of the energy fluctuation. His men had been studying the tree of life for months. Not only did they find nothing, they couldn't even get close to the tree of life. Therefore, this abnormal fluctuation made him wild with joy as if he saw a glimmer of hope. Seeing that the pursuers had arrived, he hurriedly ordered the plane to land. This plane was the latest model. It could take off and land vertically. Therefore, even in the desert it could take off and land smoothly. The plane landed smoothly. Xing Feng directly jumped off the plane and looked back. He found that Tang Jing had also chased after him. Leader, we found that someone broke the restriction of the tree of life and sneaked in. A surprised voice came from the earpiece. Someone broke through the restriction? Xing Feng was startled. He was shocked. His men had spent countless manpower and resources but failed to do so. However, someone beat them to it. Yes, it's a woman. I didn't see her face clearly. Then can we go in? Xing Feng asked anxiously. This was the question he was most concerned about. For the time being we can. Fortunately, Leader is wise and discovered it in time. Before the restriction is restored, we found a way to temporarily maintain the status quo. Now we can go in smoothly. But I don't know how long we can last. Xing Feng's heart moved. He hurriedly said, You must hold on. I'll go over immediately. He was ecstatic. This was really a help from the heavens. As soon as he came here, he found that he could break the restriction. This allowed him to get close to the tree of life. Maybe he could solve the mystery within. Although he was very curious about the woman who could break the restriction, he had so many people here. Therefore he was not worried. Even if the other party was an expert, he was confident that he could deal with her. He looked back at the approaching Tang Zheng and ordered, "Everyone listen to my order. Stop him at all costs. Kill him without mercy." Boom. Boom. 3 mechas broke out of the ground and rose into the air to meet Tang Zheng. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless super soldiers also rose into the air. They had not seen Tang Zheng's power. Because they did not know, they were not afraid. Therefore they aggressively attacked Tang Zheng. Xing Feng smiled complacently, then ran to the restrictive spell in a flash. When he saw the door with the restriction, his eyes almost turned red. He muttered excitedly, "This time I must solve the mystery of the Tree of Life." Many scientists had already rushed in with their equipment. Although there was not much progress in the past few months, they had been painstakingly researching and had gained a lot. Therefore, everyone was confident that they could solve the mystery of the Tree of Life. Xing Fengfei also rushed in, but before he could take a few steps, the door closed and the others were locked out of the restriction. He still had a lingering fear. If he was a few steps later, he wouldn't have been able to enter. He saw Tang Zheng from afar, who was already fighting with his subordinates. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smug smile. "Tang Zheng, when I solve the mystery of the Tree of Life, you will be insignificant." Tang Zheng was furious. Xing Feng was too cunning. He had escaped all the way to the Tree of Life. Back then the Dragon Group's headquarters was below. Later more than half of it was destroyed by Lanyu. Unexpectedly it was not abandoned. Instead a new base was built on the ruins. Obviously the strength of this base was even stronger than before. Seeing the 3 mechs rushing over, he soared into the air and flew up from Xiao Bai's body, landing directly on top of a mech's head. Bang! A huge fist came crashing down, but Tang Zheng suddenly jumped and dodged it. Then he waved the War Soul Sword and quickly descended. With a piu sound, the War Soul Sword pierced through the top of the mech's head. Immediately, the mech's body emitted sparks and black smoke. With a plop, it knelt on the ground. The ground seemed to tremble. Then, the mech fell to the ground with a loud bang. Tang Zheng leaped up and jumped down, just in time to meet the group of super warriors who were rushing towards him. Waving his War Soul Sword, he fought with them. Without a doubt, Tang Zheng's personal strength far surpassed these super warriors. They were not even comparable to the 4 heavenly kings, so how could they contend against Tang Zheng? However, after all, there were many of them, so they were still able to hold back Tang Zheng. The other 2 mechs also joined the battle. Chapter 806. Tang Zheng saw Xing Feng running toward the Tree of Life from afar. Although the restriction could block people, it couldn't block vision, so Tang Zheng saw everything clearly. His heart skipped a beat. How did Xing Feng get into the 6 Directions 8 Desolation Formation? The 6 Directions 8 Desolation Formation was an extremely powerful formation. Moreover, there were more than 60 pieces of heaven and earth mystic stones buried around the Tree of Life to provide energy for the formation. How could it be so easy to break through? I can't let him get close to the Tree of Life. Otherwise, the Tree of Life and the heaven and earth mystic stones below will be in danger. Tang Zheng gritted his teeth and roared, "Xiao Bai, use your full power and attack." Xiao Bai shouted excitedly and immediately spat out flames. One of the mechas was immediately surrounded by raging flames, and crackling sounds came from all over its body. With one less mecha, the pressure on Tang Zheng was greatly reduced. With the holy armor shield in one hand and the battle soul in the other, he was like a god, full of vigor as he quickly approached the Tree of Life. Xing Feng turned around and saw Tang Zheng chasing after him. He was shocked. This brat's battle strength was too shocking. However, with that restriction guarding it, it wouldn't be easy for him to enter. His heart settled back into his stomach. However, in the next second his jaw almost dropped to the ground. Bang! He saw Tang Zheng press his hand on the restriction. The restriction rippled, and another door appeared out of thin air. Xing Feng fiercely slapped his head. Only then did he remember, wasn't the restriction set up by Tang Zheng? Of course he had a way to enter. This was a miscalculation. Xing Feng didn't dare to stay. He rushed toward the Tree of Life, afraid that Tang Zheng would catch up. Xing Feng, stop right there. Tang Zheng roared. Xing Feng immediately ran even faster. Tang Zheng had already passed through the restriction. Some of the pursuers also rushed in, but the huge mechas couldn't pass through that door. Tang Zheng pointed at the restriction. The door immediately rippled and disappeared in an instant, returning to normal. The majority of the troops were blocked outside the 6 Directions 8 Desolation Formation. Tang Zheng didn't have many super soldiers by his side. There was no need for Tang Jing to do anything. Xiao Bai directly turned them into people on fire. Whoosh! Tang Jing rushed to the foot of the Tree of Life, only to find that Xing Feng and the others had disappeared. He looked up and vaguely saw that these people had already climbed up the tree and were hiding in the middle of the Tree of Life. Shit! Don't destroy the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life had an important mission. Not only was it improving the air quality of the world and providing more abundant spiritual energy, but more importantly, it was secretly absorbing the energy of the Ghost Festival, turning the human world from a small world into a large world. That way it could avoid destruction. This was a secret that no one else knew about. Therefore Tang Jing could not let anyone else discover this secret, and he could not let Xing Feng ruin this huge plan. Halt! Tang Jing roared. Like a gecko, he pushed off the ground with the tip of his foot and quickly chased after them along the tree trunk. When Xing Feng saw the pursuing soldiers, he ordered loudly, "Stop him!" Whoosh! 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 More than 10 super soldiers turned around and faced Tang Jing, as if they weren't afraid of death. Tang Jing's strength was much higher than theirs. So many people couldn't stop him just now, let alone these 10 small fries. With a flash of sword light, he raised his hand and swung his sword down. The dozen or so super soldiers fell off the tree one after another. The Tree of Life was too dense. In an instant, the figures of Xing Feng and the others disappeared. No one knew where they were hiding. Tang Jing panicked, thinking that he had to find them as soon as possible. Therefore he moved through the Tree of Life. Xing Feng and the others hid under a branch. A piece of equipment had been installed. The scientists were frightened, but they were also excited as they fiddled with the equipment. They whispered, "We're ready." Xing Feng's eyes lit up. He couldn't hide his excitement as he urged, "Then what are you waiting for? Let's get started." Yes. The equipment was activated. A shiny drill came out of the equipment and nailed into the tree trunk. It fiercely drilled down. This equipment was specially made for the Tree of Life. In the past, their research on the Tree of Life had been stagnant. They couldn't even take out a part of the Tree of Life for research. The bark of the Tree of Life was too hard. It was impossible to penetrate. Recently, they finally developed a new material that was very hard. They were confident that they could break through the bark and enter the Tree of Life. They could extract the essence of the Tree of Life for research. The Tree of Life contains such a strong life force. The tree trunk must have an even stronger life force. The mysteries hidden in it might be solved after analysis. As expected, the drill rubbed against the bark for a while. A hole appeared in the bark, and the drill quickly drilled into the heart of the tree. A stream of juice emerged from the drill bit. This juice was incomparably fragrant, causing one to feel refreshed and refreshed. Spirit Array. Xing Feng trembled in excitement. He dipped his finger in the juice and licked it. Boom. His taste buds seemed to explode. An indescribable feeling instantly spread throughout his body. The exhaustion from running for his life disappeared and his body was filled with endless energy. This is too amazing. This juice must be the essence of the Tree of Life. The mysteries contained within are hard to estimate. He dipped his finger in the juice and placed it in his mouth. Immediately, he closed his eyes and felt like he was floating in the air. Could it be that I can become an immortal after drinking this? He excitedly thought. There's a result. The scientists cheered. They pointed at the equipment and said, "Our equipment integrates mining and analysis. We have roughly analyzed this juice. It contains all kinds of rich nutrients and is thousands of times better than any supplement in the world. Moreover, it can be directly consumed. It has countless benefits to the body. The life force it contains can even bring the dead back to life. It is like the legendary nectar." Nectar? Xing Feng was so excited that his eyes almost popped out. Could it be that after drinking it I can become immortal? The legendary nectar of the gods did have this effect, but it was only a legend. No one had seen it with their own eyes. We can't be sure. With a cautious attitude, the scientists didn't dare to say anything. After all, this was beyond the scope of their knowledge, but there is no doubt that this is very beneficial to the human body. Quick, quick, quick. I want to extract more juice. Xing Feng rubbed his palms together. He couldn't wait to drink more juice. Immortality was a delicacy that countless people yearned for even in their dreams. Someone like Xing Feng, who was blinded by greed, was naturally no exception. The equipment started to operate. Little bits of juice were extracted from the Tree of Life and gathered in a small bottle. The liquid was transparent and exuded a mysterious fragrance. Before the bottle was full, Xing Feng couldn't wait to break it open and put it into his mouth. The others looked at him enviously. They also wanted to have a taste. They didn't know what it would taste like. Shwa. Suddenly, a sword light passed through the dense leaves and slashed at Xing Feng. Tang Jing appeared. He followed the fragrance and chased after them. He also heard their conversation and immediately realized the importance of this juice. How could he let Xing Feng succeed? He multitasked. While controlling the sword to attack Xing Feng, he kicked the equipment fiercely. With a clang, the equipment broke and fell down the tree. The scientists were powerless and didn't dare to stop Tang Jing. They all ran to the side, afraid that they would be implicated. Tang Jing saw the small hole in the tree trunk. The hole was shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, it healed as if it had never been there. All of this happened very quickly. If not for Tang Jing's superior eyesight, he wouldn't have noticed. Tang Jing had seen the vampire's ability to heal wounds, but the Tree of Life's healing speed was faster. It was an eye-opener for him. He didn't have time to sigh as he focused on dealing with Xing Feng. The War Soul Sword chased after Xing Feng, leaving him no time to drink the juice in his hand. He was unable to restrain his anger and roared, "Tang Jing, you're really haunting me. I'll cut you into 10,000 pieces." Tang Jing disdainfully said, "Now that you don't have your lackeys to help you, let's see how you'll escape. Obediently accept your death." In your dreams. Xing Feng flew into a rage. Tang Jing was too lazy to waste words with him. He leaped up and grabbed the War Soul Sword. Then he increased the power of his attack, causing Xing Feng to be in danger. His body was already covered with many wounds and blood flowed out. Xing Feng tried to drink the juice several times, but in the end he was unable to succeed. Tang Jing had been staring at the bottle of juice the entire time, and with another swift and fierce sword move, he forced the opponent into a dead end, making it impossible for him to dodge. With a stretch of his hand, he snatched the bottle from the opponent's hand. "Give it back to me." Xing Feng let out a heart-wrenching roar as if he had gone mad. He actually risked being stabbed by the War Soul Sword and narrowly escaped death. Tang Jing glanced at the juice. The fragrance assailed his nostrils, making him feel refreshed. He didn't consume it immediately. The juice from the Tree of Life must have many mysteries. He wouldn't drink it so impatiently. With a flash of light on his wrist, the bottle was put away into Sumeru world. Seeing this, Xing Feng's eyes were about to explode. His eyes were about to spit fire. "I'm going to kill you. You're going to die without a burial ground." Xing Feng roared. He took out a needle and stabbed it into his heart. Did he want to commit suicide? Tang Jing was confused. He watched as Xing Feng's expression became more and more ferocious, like a beast that wanted to eat people. Xing Feng suddenly faced the sky and let out a heart-wrenching roar. His body rapidly expanded. "What's going on?" Tang Jing looked at Xing Feng with a strange expression. His heart moved. He immediately guessed that the thing that was injected into his body must have taken effect. He actually transformed. He just didn't know what it was that could cause such a change. Chapter 807. Seeing that Battle Soul was about to pierce Xing Feng, the muscles on Xing Feng's body swelled up, tearing through his clothes and growing a lot of hair. 2 horns grew out of his head and his cheeks became extremely sinister. He no longer looked like a human but more like a beast. Battle Soul pierced into his skin but was unable to penetrate deeply. Then it was slapped back. Tang Jing looked at the other party in shock and said, "What did you inject into yourself?" "Jia." Xing Feng's laughter was sharp and strange. His pupils emitted a dim light as he said proudly, "This is the genetic medicine that our dragon group recently developed. This is the combination of human and demon genes. It is a great invention but it has not been put into practice yet. Today I will let you witness the performance of this medicine." Genetic medicine. Tang Jing's eyelids twitched. He knew that super soldiers were the result of genetic modification, which was why they could be modified in batches. Obviously, the genetic medicine that Xing Feng injected this time was even more powerful. It had almost turned him from a human into a beast and his strength had greatly increased. "Tang Jing, die. After you die, I will extract all of the sap from the Tree of Life. After consuming it, I will become even stronger. I will become the ruler of this world. Who cares if it's the leader, Wuxia, or the Atlantic Empire? I will make all of them submit to me and listen to my orders. If they dare to disobey, then they will die," Xing Feng said crazily. Tang Jing's heart trembled. Xing Feng's ambition was so great that he did not put the country in his eyes and even wanted to take the whole world for himself. Crazy. Too crazy. If he was allowed to escape today and create more super soldiers like him, then the world would be in chaos even without the demon race. Tang Jing could not help but rejoice. If he followed the official rules and waited for a period of time to deal with Xing Feng, then he would have already made preparations. Who knows how many super soldiers he would create? How could the country deal with him then? Wishful thinking. Tang Jing shouted and once again attacked with his sword. Xing Feng's strength had increased greatly, and he was not at a disadvantage. A pair of sharp claws clashed with the battle soul, creating sparks. Tang Jing's heart gradually sank. A single dose of genetic medicine could make an ordinary martial artist so powerful. The other party had at least reached the third level of the supreme power realm. This was too heaven-defying. Even though Tang Jing's cultivation speed was extremely fast, he had never heard of such a terrifying thing. This was the power of technology. He was afraid that the demon race would have a headache facing such a situation. However, Xing Feng was no longer a normal human being. He had turned into a wild beast. His threat to humans was no less than that of demons. The two of them were locked in battle as they slowly flew towards the top of the tree. Although Xiaobai was strong, he was not of much use at the moment. This was because the Tree of Life might be in danger if it spat out flames, and Tang Jing definitely wouldn't take this risk. A moment later, the two of them arrived at the top of the Tree of Life. They were already several hundred meters in the air. The battle soul had opened many wounds on Xing Feng's body, but there were no fatal injuries. Therefore, although he was only at the third level of the supreme power realm, his skin was thick and his resistance to attacks was strong. Therefore, his strength was far beyond the third level of the supreme power realm. This was why he was able to compete with Tang Jing. Whoosh whoosh. The two of them passed through the last layer of branches and leaves and flew up to the top of the tree. The scene in front of them suddenly became very open. However, both of them were attracted by another figure. A woman in a Taoist robe stood on the top of the tree with her eyes closed in deep thought, as if the two of them didn't exist. Yan Qingyi. Tang Jing was shocked. He didn't expect her to really come to the Tree of Life. Xing Feng finally remembered the figure he saw on the plane who broke through the restriction. At such a close distance, he finally recognized the other party. Yan Qingyi, it's actually you. Xing Feng's ear-piercing voice rang out as he pointed at Yan Qingyi. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Yan Qingyi turned a deaf ear to him and didn't even bat an eyelid. Tang Jing's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Xing Feng must be using a prophecy. Furthermore, Xing Feng had specially come to the Tree of Life from the capital in an attempt to help the prophecy. Seeing that she was in a daze, Tang Jing didn't dare to let Xing Feng disturb her too much. Thus, he tapped the tip of his foot, and the branch under his feet bent like a fully drawn bow and shot at Xing Feng. Xing Feng curled his lips in disdain and attacked again. The heavenly flying immortal sword technique focused on elegance and ease, as if an immortal had descended to the mortal world. On the other hand, Xing Feng was a big guy who focused on strength and accuracy. Therefore, the two's fighting styles were very different. Seeing that it was difficult to determine the winner, Tang Jing put away the battle soul and took out the true heaven bow and shooting sun arrows. Xing Feng had seen the power of this divine armament before, and his face suddenly changed as he said, "You actually still have this kind of arrow? I didn't use it all for you in the ocean back then." Tang Jing snorted. Back then, when he was dealing with the demon clan, he had lost the shooting sun arrows, which made him feel extremely regretful. After dozens of days, wanting to find them back was like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's a pity that this kind of divine weapon is in your hands. As long as I can snatch that bow, I can create even more divine weapons. Xing Feng said in high spirits. Haha, you still want to copy my heaven-shocking bow and shooting sun arrows? You are truly delusional. Really? Let me tell you, your shooting sun arrows are in my hands. I have already sent people to study them. Do you really think that with how advanced technology is now, you really can't create a similarly powerful one? Xing Feng asked in ridicule. Tang Jing was shocked and said, My shooting sun arrows are in your hands? Of course, back then I spent a lot of effort to fish them out from the sea. Xing Feng said complacently. However, Tang Jing was extremely excited. He originally thought that he had lost the shooting sun arrows forever, but he never thought that he would regain it. Immediately, he looked at Xing Feng as if he had seen his prey, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. Without a doubt, it was impossible to force him to reveal the whereabouts of the shooting sun arrows. The only way was to use the soul-searching technique. Moreover, there were definitely many secrets in his mind, so he couldn't miss this opportunity. Therefore, Tang Jing couldn't kill him directly with one strike. He needed to control him first so that he could use the soul-searching technique. Of course, Xing Feng didn't just have so many ideas in Tang Zheng's mind, he was still immersed in joy. Of course, he also knew that Tang Zheng was a difficult person to deal with. However, when he saw Yan Qingyi, who had his eyes tightly closed, his heart moved. Since the Yan family and Tang Zheng were so close, why not kill Yan Qingyi first and let the world know the consequences of going against him? Bang! He stomped heavily on the treetop and leaped forward, pouncing towards Yan Qingyi. His sharp claws gleamed with a cold light. Yan Qingyi, who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken, would be torn into pieces if he were to be struck by those claws. Tang Zheng understood this very well and hurriedly shouted, "Yan Qingyi, be careful." Yan Qingyi was indifferent and didn't open her eyes. She was like an old monk in meditation, and external things couldn't wake her at all. Tang Zheng turned pale with fright and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Run!" At the same time, Xing Feng's attack was already in front of Yan Qingyi. Tang Zheng wanted to save her, but he was half a beat too late. Xing Feng was immensely complacent. At such a close distance, he was determined to win. As long as he killed Yan Qingyi, the world wouldn't dare to go against him. Suddenly, Xing Feng's expression changed greatly, as he looked at Yan Qingyi in disbelief. Because his attack actually missed at the last moment. Yan Qingyi closed her eyes and with a slight movement of her feet, her body moved a small step to the side, and easily avoided his attack. Moreover, her eyes were still closed. This kind of exquisite dodging action he had never seen before. Moreover, Yan Qingyi didn't have any martial arts skills. Lucky she must be lucky. I can't be scared by her. Xing Feng took a deep breath and secretly comforted himself. He immediately changed his attack route, and attacked Yan Qingyi's vital points. Like drawing a ladle, Yan Qingyi once again dodged the attack as if he was drawing a ladle. This? Xing Feng was dumbstruck. The first time was a coincidence, but the second time was definitely not a coincidence. What was going on? He was sure that Yan Qingyi's body did not have any energy fluctuations. He was not a martial artist, nor was he a cultivator. This was a well-known fact, but how could she easily avoid his attack? Tang Zheng couldn't help but be astonished. Yan Qingyi's reaction was too dazzling, and he couldn't help but gasp in admiration. Xing Feng's double attack missed, and he wanted to continue attacking, but Tang Zheng had already appeared behind him. With a so sound, the shooting sun arrow shot out and went straight for his back. Ho! Xing Feng unwillingly roared and jumped up, attempting to escape. But Yan Qingyi actually stretched out her hand and grabbed his leg. He subconsciously stopped and looked down. Oh! The shooting sun arrow fiercely shot into his waist and blood splattered. He cried out in pain. He originally had the chance to snatch the shooting sun arrow, but Yan Qingyi's timely move caused his movements to suddenly stop, and then he took the arrow. This scene caused him to be puzzled. He was both angry and frightened. Because all of this was strange, as if Yan Qingyi could predict his actions in advance, as if everything was under her control. This made Xing Feng very uneasy, and he only wanted to get away from Yan Qingyi. The feeling she gave him was even more terrifying than Tang Zheng. He punched towards Yan Qingyi, but Yan Qingyi slightly tilted her body, dodged and released her hand. Xing Feng finally escaped, and without caring about the pain he tried to escape. But Tang Zheng had already blocked his path, and the other shooting sun arrow shot into his left chest at lightning speed. The two shooting sun arrows from the front and back caused him to abruptly stop running, and with a putong sound he fell onto the treetop. Tang Zheng's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. The War Soul sword immediately pressed against his head and shouted, "Don't move!" Xing Feng grimaced and angrily said, "Tang Zheng, I am not willing to fall into your hands." Tang Zheng coldly laughed and said, "The winner is the king, the loser is the thief. So what if you are not willing? You have done many evil deeds and today is the day you die. All of this is wrong. It's all because of her that I fell into your hands." Xing Feng pointed at Yan Qingyi, puzzled. Chapter 808. Yan Qingyi slightly nodded towards Tang Zheng, then looked at Xing Feng expressionlessly and said, "The reason why you are here today is not because of others, but because you brought it upon yourself. Your ambition has harmed you." Xing Feng's face stiffened as he roared, "Stinking woman, what do you know?" Yan Qingyi shook her head. "You still refuse to realize your mistake. Your fate is already sealed. Your life has already come to an end. You dare to kill me?" Xing Feng was shocked. Yan Qingyi was silent. Tang Zheng jokingly laughed. "If I didn't want to kill you, why would I spend so much effort to chase you here? The country will not let you go. Is that so? I don't think so. The country may not fully understand your actions. As long as they understand your ambition, then you really deserve to die. Xing Feng's eyes rolled as he tried to escape. However, he found that there were sun shooting arrows in front of him and War Soul Sword on his head. There was nowhere to run. Tang Jing, don't you want your arrow? If you let me go, I will return it to you. Otherwise you will never find it. Xing Feng threatened. There is no need for you to speak. With that, Tang Jing grabbed his head and used the soul-searching technique. Let go of me. Let go of me. What are you doing? Xing Feng screamed at the top of his lungs. Tang Jing turned a deaf ear to him. Countless complex information flashed through his mind, revealing all his secrets. Xing Feng's screams finally stopped. Even his body had changed. His body was rapidly shrinking and his cheeks had returned to human form. However, his face was full of wrinkles as if he had aged 30 years in an instant. Moreover, the lush hair did not disappear. Side effects. Tang Jing immediately came to the conclusion. The genetic medicine that Xing Feng had taken had many side effects. Although it could temporarily increase his fighting strength, the damage to his body was too great. At this moment, after the effects of the medicine had passed, he had become neither human nor ghost. It was especially terrifying. His eyes had lost their luster and he was still muttering, I am the most powerful person in the world. I am the number one in the world. Everyone has to listen to me. Tang Jing shook his head. He had completely lost himself. Tang Jing let go of his hand. The wrinkles on Xing Feng's face grew more and more, and they quickly spread to the rest of his body. A gust of wind blew past and the leaves rustled. The wrinkles also sounded and they started to crack. The vitality in Xing Feng's eyes was completely cut off. His body also cracked rapidly like a broken porcelain. In the end, with a cracking sound, he turned into bits that filled the sky and dissipated with the wind. Tang Jing looked at this scene in shock. This definitely wasn't the effect of the soul search technique, but the side effect of the genetic medicine that had caused Xing Feng's death. Tang Jing did not pity him at all and coldly said, You reap what you sow, you only have yourself to blame. Yan Qingyi didn't seem to be surprised at all. Her eyes were incomparably indifferent, as if she had already known this would happen. Seeing it with my own eyes is more realistic than my predictions. Yan Qingyi said lightly. Tang Jing's heart stirred. He asked, You predicted his death? Yan Qingyi nodded. Just now I was standing on top of the tree. When I closed my eyes I saw this scene. Everything was predestined. He can't escape. Tang Jing came to a sudden realization. No wonder she was so indifferent. Could it be that you also predicted his attack just now? Yes. Ever since I stood on top of the tree, the power of my prophecy technique has greatly increased. Not only can I predict the future but I can also predict what will happen next. As such, I can accurately dodge his attack. Tang Jing was dumbfounded. This was the power of prophecy technique. Not only could it predict the future but it could also predict what would happen in the next second. With this kind of foresight, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens for Xing Feng to attack her. After all, she could take the initiative to dodge, causing her opponent's attack to miss. Tang Jing imagined that if he had this ability, then wouldn't he be heaven-defying in battle? Perhaps even people several levels higher than him might not be his match. Immediately he couldn't help but look at Yan Qingyi in a new light. He gave her a thumbs up and sincerely praised, You really are too amazing. Yan Qingyi said with a bit of disappointment, This ability can only be achieved by standing on top of the tree and connecting with the aura of the tree of life. Is that so? Tang Jing was greatly disappointed. How can everything in this world go according to one's wishes? This time I have already gained a lot. It turns out that the tree of life really can promote the use of prophecy technique. I have been working here for so long, but I still didn't discover this secret. Yan Qingyi said with regret. The tree of life can actually help your prophecy technique? Tang Jing was overjoyed. Then did you predict the specific situation of the end of the world? Yan Qingyi nodded. There were a few more fragments. It turns out that when the demon race gathered at the snowy mountain, their original intention was not to besiege you, but to escape from this world. You seem to be preventing them from escaping from this world. Tang Jing was greatly shocked. This was too different from the prophecy she had said before. Yan Qingyi also clearly understood this point. She said with some embarrassment, My previous prophecy technique saw too few scenes, so my speculations may have been a bit off. Tang Jing nodded and said, Since you said that the demon race was escaping from this world, then why? Could it be because of the scene of the end of the world that you saw? Yan Qingyi nodded. Some of the scenes that I saw this time did indicate that the end of the world had arrived. The scene of the end of the world was even more terrifying than what I said last time. I guess that the demon race definitely knew that this world was going to end, so they wanted to escape. Moreover, they wanted to climb the stone stairs behind you. Tang Jing suddenly understood. The creation of the world was successful, so the demon race definitely wanted to use the heaven stairway to escape from this world. Didn't that mean that they had returned to the sky beyond heaven? The demon race racked their brains to return to the human world, but they wanted to go back to the sky beyond heaven. All their efforts were for naught. It seems that I am preventing them from returning to the sky beyond heaven. Actually, that's right. The demon race is the root of the problem. If they return to the sky beyond heaven, they will definitely stir up trouble again. It's better to stay in this world and perish together with this world. Tang Jing thought silently. But there seemed to be something extremely terrifying at the end of the stone stairs. It made the demon race shrink back, and instead they fled. Yin Qingyi added. Tang Jing's head thumped and he asked, "What is at the end of the stone stairs? Did you see it this time?" Yin Qingyi shook her head regretfully. "It was too blurry, I couldn't see it clearly. But I saw something else." "What?" "The tree of life shone brilliantly, and then the world returned to peace. The scene of the end of the world completely disappeared." Yin Qingyi couldn't help but look at the tree of life below her feet and say. Tang Jing pondered for a moment and said, "So, in the end, the thing that restored the world to its original state was the tree of life. And if it wasn't me, then I am not the savior?" This. Yin Qingyi hesitated, not knowing how to answer. In the past, she had solemnly declared that Tang Jing was the savior, but now it seemed that it was all a misunderstanding. The thing that saved the world was actually the tree of life, which meant that there was no savior at all. Tang Jing smiled as if relieved of a burden. He didn't want to be the savior in the first place, and since it was all a misunderstanding, he felt relieved. Yin Qingyi looked at Tang Jing awkwardly and said, "Although I can't confirm the savior point, you resisted the demon race with your own strength, so you are still the hero of this world." Tang Jing didn't deny it and said, "I don't care whether I am a hero or not, as long as this world isn't destroyed. But, did you predict what would cause the end of the world?" Yin Qingyi shook her head guiltily. "I didn't predict it. There were too many uncertain factors during the end of the world, so Tang Jing didn't think too much about it, because any deviation could lead to wrong conclusions, such as saying that he was the savior. Tang Jing, don't be sad, maybe I didn't see enough, you are still the savior because in the unseen world I feel that you are extremely important to this world." Tang Jing waved his hand and said, "There's no need to say any more, I don't want to be the savior. However, since the tree of life can make your prophecy more accurate, then if you stay here won't you be able to predict more things?" "No, only after I comprehend more Taoist will my prophecy be able to improve even more. Then, with the help of the tree of life I will be able to predict even more. So staying here is useless." Tang Jing felt regretful and said, "So that's how it is, then let's leave this place. Come to my war soul sword, let's go down the tree first." Yin Qingyi stood on the war soul sword. In order to ensure her safety, Tang Jing hugged her waist from behind, and through the robe he could still clearly feel the astonishing elasticity inside. Yin Qingyi lowered her head and looked, only to see a few hundred meters in the air, causing her to feel dizzy. "Close your eyes or look forward, don't look down," Tang Jing warned. Yin Qingyi took a deep breath and looked forward. At this height of a few hundred meters, the scenery was exceptionally beautiful. The scenery of the sky and the earth could be seen, especially the desert in the distance. It was exceptionally beautiful under the sunlight, causing one to feel relaxed and happy. The war soul sword landed steadily on the ground. The two of them jumped off the war soul sword, only to discover that there were people standing both inside and outside the restriction. The few scientists who had escaped were anxiously sticking to the restriction, and when they saw Tang Jing and Yin Qingyi, they were so scared that their faces turned pale, their legs went soft and they sat down on the ground. Outside the restriction there were many super warriors. However, their expressions were no longer as fierce as before. Instead, they looked at Tang Jing with fear in their eyes. This was because they had already seen the scene on the treetop from afar. Their leader had died. Without a leader, although these people's fighting strength was not bad, they had already become jackals of the same tribe and were nothing to worry about. Tang Jing walked to the edge of the restriction and pressed down on it. Ripples spread out and the door appeared again, but no one dared to cross the line and barge in. Chapter 809. Everyone looked at Tang Jing in shock. Tang Jing indifferently swept his eyes over the crowd, causing them to continuously retreat, their faces turning pale with fright. Xing Feng is already dead. If you dare to help the tiger and commit crimes, then Xing Feng will be your end. Scram. A loud and clear shout caused people's hearts to tremble. No one dared to resist as they all retreated. Without a leader, they became a motley crew. The few scientists trembled as they exited the barrier. Tang Jing waved his hand and the barrier returned to normal. No one was able to pass through this barrier. Come to my sword. I will escort you back to the capital. Tang Jing invited. Looking at the thin war spirit sword, Yan Qingyi hesitated for a moment, but still stood on it. Although men and women were not clear, moreover she was a monk. It was not good for her to be hugged by Tang Jing like this. But she had no choice. If she wanted to leave the desert, flying was the best way. The two of them stepped on the flying sword and left the desert, returning to the capital. The air in the capital was filled with a chilling aura, causing people's hearts to involuntarily tighten. Yan Qingyi's brows trembled as she asked, "What happened?" Tang Jing indifferently said, "I'm afraid this has something to do with my actions these past few days." Yan Qingyi worriedly said, "Xing Feng is after all an official. If you kill him like this, how will you explain it to the officials?" Tang Jing did not mind and said, "I have my own plans. I'd like to hear the details." Yan Qingyi looked at him with a burning gaze. Xing Feng is a wolf with wild ambitions. He actually had evil intentions and wanted to rebel. This is a serious crime. I have already obtained all the information and presented it to the officials. They will naturally know what is more important. Tang Jing said confidently. Rebel? Yan Qingyi was shocked. Xing Feng's guts are actually this big. His guts are indeed not small. Normal people wouldn't even dare to imagine such a thing. But he controls such a powerful force like the Dragon Group, which is why he has second thoughts. Power is a very harmful thing. Tang Jing sighed. Yan Qingyi's hanging heart finally settled back into his stomach. He nodded in relief and said, "That's for the best. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. There is no need to put yourself in danger because of Xing Feng." Tang Jing smiled noncommittally. In fact, sometimes it was inevitable to take risks in order to achieve a goal. This time he was taking a risk. However, the final result was still not too bad. He had obtained too much useful information from Xing Feng's mind, and there was no lack of dark histories of some big shots. However, what attracted him the most was Xing Feng's plan. Xing Feng was actually blinded by greed. His ego was inflated and he wanted to rebel. He wasn't just thinking about it. He was already putting it into practice. Under the guise of the Dragon Group, Xing Feng's true actions were concealed. He had actually secretly created quite a number of mechas and trained many men of sacrifice. These men of sacrifice only listened to his orders. Furthermore, he even had spies in the inner palace. As long as the time was right, the loyalists would assassinate the country's leaders. Then he would usurp the throne and replace it. Tang Jing couldn't help but admire Xing Feng's madness. As long as the government knew of his plot, he would definitely die. It was like dancing on a steel wire. Tang Jing already had all this solid evidence in his hands. As long as the government saw this, they would definitely not pursue his actions. He had accidentally gotten rid of such a hidden danger. The government should be secretly happy. As for the dirty deeds of those high-ranking officials, Tang Jing would show them all. These social parasites held high positions and squeezed the wealth of the people. This was the greatest damage and blasphemy to the country. Seeing that Tang Jing had already thought of a way out, Yan Qingyi knew that she was worrying too much. Thus she bid farewell and left. Tang Jing wasn't in a hurry to go home. Instead, he went to the Dragon Group's base in the outskirts. He saw that the originally deserted base was surrounded by layers upon layers of countless soldiers. Tang Jing's head thumped. Could it be that such a large number of soldiers were guarding the base because he had caused a ruckus in the base? However, these people couldn't stop him. He quietly went down to the base. However, he found that the base was bustling with activity. All kinds of equipment and resources were being packed and evacuated. He ignored them and ran straight to his destination. After a while, he came to a hidden wall. He stretched out his hand and a row of boxes popped out from the wall. He was delighted. This was the information he had obtained from the soul-searching technique. The shooting sun arrows that the Dragon Group had salvaged were hidden here. That was why he had snuck into the base. It's empty? Suddenly he saw that the cabinet was empty. The items were nowhere to be found. He was shocked. He flew into a rage. Where are my shooting sun arrows? Your shooting sun arrows have been taken away. A gloomy voice came from behind him. Tang Zheng was shocked. There was actually someone who had silently appeared behind him, but he was completely unaware of it, which meant that the other party's power was not ordinary. He suddenly turned around and saw an ordinary person. He had a normal face and eyes without any sharpness. If this person was thrown into a crowd, no one would notice him. He was too ordinary. However, Tang Zheng didn't dare to be careless. This was because the other party could silently stand 3 meters behind him. Just based on this point, Tang Zheng didn't dare to underestimate him. Who are you? Number 2. Number 2? Tang Zheng had never heard of this name. He couldn't help but be surprised. A name is just a code. Number 2 said indifferently. You said that the shooting sun arrows have been taken away. Where are they now? Tang Zheng asked. The leader wants to see you. Number 2 said without answering the question. Tang Zheng's eyelids jumped. You are an expert from the inner palace? Number 2 didn't say anything. He turned around and left. Tang Zheng was sure that the other party was an expert from the inner palace. Previously, when he was in the inner palace, he sensed several powerful auras. This person was probably one of them. At that time, Number 2's aura was fully released. Therefore, he could easily sense the other party's presence. The other party also used this aura to intimidate people so that they didn't dare to act rashly. At this time, Number 2 left the inner palace. His aura was completely hidden. He was no different from an ordinary person. Seeing that the other party didn't want to say more, Tang Zheng quickly followed him. The shooting sun arrows must have fallen into the hands of the leader. Moreover, he sent people to wait here. That means that he knew that Tang Zheng would definitely appear here. As expected of the leader, his plan was flawless. Since he summoned him, Tang Zheng naturally wouldn't refuse. After all, he still had to tell the other party about Xing Feng's scheme. After a few minutes, Tang Zheng once again arrived at the mysterious courtyard. 2 powerful auras were firmly locked onto him. He was sure that there were 2 other experts here. They were eyeing him with hostility. Therefore, they didn't hesitate to release their auras to intimidate Tang Zheng. It was as if they were telling him not to act rashly. Tang Zheng's various actions had made these people feel like they were facing a great enemy. They classified him as an unstable factor and must be fully on guard against him. Tang Zheng was magnanimous and didn't care at all. He followed Number 2 into the leader's study. In his heart, he was speculating about how many experts were hidden in the inner palace. The great families had always thought highly of themselves. Many of them were arrogant and didn't even put the government in their eyes. Now it seemed that they weren't so optimistic. The government had been accumulating for so many years and had a deep foundation. They weren't any weaker than the great families. With this new understanding, Tang Zheng had to re-evaluate the government. They had always shown weakness to the outside world and deceived many people. This state of showing weakness to the enemy was bound to change and restore the country's prestige and dignity. In this process, someone was bound to suffer. It was just that he didn't know who it would be. Number 2 brought Tang Zheng in and then respectfully retreated, closing the door behind him. Tang Zheng looked up and saw the leader standing in front of the window. He was silent as he looked at the clouds in the sky. Leader, why did you summon me? Tang Zheng asked straightforwardly. The leader slowly turned around and opened a box on the table. A few shooting sun arrows lay quietly inside. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. These were all the shooting sun arrows he had prepared for the ceremony. They had all fallen into the hands of the leader. The leader tapped the wooden box a few times and said, "You have done many shocking things during this period of time. What are your thoughts? Let's talk about it." Good kill. Tang Zheng thought for a while and simply spat out 3 words. The leader raised his thick eyebrows, clearly unhappy. He said coldly, "You killed someone and yet you dare to say it's good. Where is the law? The law protects good people, not evil people. In my opinion, if evil people don't die, more good people will be hurt." Humph, twisting words and forcing logic. Is it up to you to decide whether someone is a bad person or not? The leader slammed the table and asked angrily. Tang Zheng didn't change his expression and said lightly, "It's not up to me. It's up to a righteous heart. Xing Feng's actions, as long as it's a righteous person, they can naturally judge whether he's good or bad." Seeing that Tang Zheng didn't listen to him, the leader got even angrier. Even now, he still didn't repent and was full of sophistry, challenging his nerves. Tang Zheng acted as if he didn't see the leader's reaction and said directly, "Listen to me for a while. You can also judge whether Xing Feng is good or bad." Without waiting for the leader to reply, Tang Zheng directly talked about Xing Feng's schemes. He even mentioned the place where he trained his men of sacrifice and hid his mechas. The leader's expression gradually changed. His anger seemed to be about to rush out of his head. After listening to Tang Zheng, he finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He slammed the table and roared angrily, "Death can't wipe out his crimes, death can't wipe out his crimes." Tang Zheng's lips unknowingly curled up into a smile. He looked at the leader with a half-smile. The leader ignored his mocking expression and asked, "Is all of this true? Don't you already have an answer in your heart?" Tang Jing shrugged and said, "Indeed, the leader already had an answer in his heart. These things couldn't be fabricated. He just needed to check to know whether it was true or false. Tang Jing wouldn't be so stupid as to use this kind of thing to deceive him." Chapter 8:10. Tang Jing looked at the bureau chief quietly and added, "Xing Feng's actions are not only limited to this, he also has an unclear relationship with the Atlantic Empire's Rockefeller family." The bureau chief's face was ashen, his hands clenched into fists, his veins popping out. With so many crimes, Xing Feng could already be judged to be an extremely evil person. To think that he actually trusted him and even handed over the National Security Bureau and Dragon Group to him. If it wasn't for Tang Jing stopping him in time, the consequences would be too late for him to regret. He looked deeply at Tang Jing with a complicated expression. He pushed the shooting sun arrow forward and said, "Even though Xing Feng has committed a heinous crime, your actions have no sense of discipline at all. If there is a next time, I will not sit by and do nothing. There will be no next time." Hearing this, Tang Jing smiled confidently. This was the outcome he had expected. He kept the shooting sun arrow and said, "Thank you. Calm down from now on." The bureau chief warned, "I have never been a person who likes to stir up trouble." "Is that so? Then what is going on between you and the Song family? This is the capital, stability is the overall situation. I don't want to see a chaotic situation." Tang Jing said calmly, "The Song family is different from others. They are already my enemy. If I don't retaliate, then they will kill me. There are no irreconcilable conflicts in this world. As long as both sides sit together and negotiate, there will always be a solution." The bureau chief said earnestly. Tang Jing said disapprovingly, "That may not be so. The Song family has long wanted to kill me. If I let them go, then won't others do the same? Anyway, if I do nothing, even if they find out, then won't I become a living target for many people?" The bureau chief's expression was serious. He said sternly, "Then you don't agree? Forgive me for not being able to comply." Tang Jing cupped his hands and said resolutely. The bureau chief stared at him, the veins on the back of his hand bulging. A suppressed anger shrouded Tang Jing's head, as if it could pour down at any time. Tang Jing's expression was calm, as if nothing had happened. Whoosh. After a long while, the bureau chief finally let out a long sigh and said, "What I want is the stability and unity of this society, not a state of disunity. So that's all I have to say. Take care of yourself." Tang Jing's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that the bureau chief had compromised and did not pursue the matter of the Song family. The Song family was too powerful and had many restrictions on the government, making it impossible to implement the decree. This was the power of a big family. Not only could they influence individuals, but they could also influence the policies of a country. Sometimes the country would have a headache, so they both loved and hated these big families. "If there's nothing else, then I'll take my leave," Tang Jing said. The bureau chief waved his hand. Tang Jing turned around and left the courtyard. Creak. The three of them entered and respectfully stopped in front of the bureau chief. The bureau chief looked up at them and said, "What is your impression of Tang Jing?" Number 2 was among the three of them. One of them was an old man in a green robe, and the other was younger than number 2. The three of them had restrained their aura, but their serious expressions were the same, making one's heart tremble. Among them, the old man was number 1, and the other was number 3. They were the 3 experts in charge of protecting the bureau chief. Hearing the bureau chief's question, number 1 bowed slightly and said, "Reporting to the bureau chief, Tang Jing has been here several times. We have been observing him silently. According to our observation, his strength is unfathomable. If he wants to win, perhaps the 3 of us can give it a try." The bureau chief raised his eyebrows and his eyelids twitched. He said, "The 3 of you have to work together to kill him?" "Yes, this is the conclusion we came to after observing him in secret as well as the results of his battles with other experts. Tang Zheng is a cultivator and has many supernatural abilities that others cannot predict. He can often catch people off guard and cause them to be unable to defend against him. Number 1 said solemnly. Hearing this, the bureau chief lowered his head and pondered. Number 1 wasn't speaking without thinking. This was an authoritative conclusion and he wouldn't question it. This could only mean that Tang Zheng's strength was beyond his imagination. Seeing this, Number 2 couldn't help but say, Bureau Chief, in my humble opinion, Tang Zheng is an opponent that we can rope in. We don't have to stand on the opposite side of him. Number 3 refuted disapprovingly. This person is young and arrogant. The best way to solve this is to get rid of him as soon as possible and prevent future troubles. Number 2 and Number 3 looked at each other. The two of them had been arguing about this for a long time, and they both insisted on their own views. The bureau chief waved his hand and said decisively, no need to say any more. Let's observe first. It's too early to make a conclusion. Yes. The three of them nodded. When Tang Zheng returned home, he chatted with the women for a while and then returned to his room. With the previous experience, when he chased after Xing Feng this time, he had called them to inform them, so they weren't too worried. He carefully took out the bottle containing the sap from the tree of life. Immediately, a strange fragrance filled the whole room, making people feel refreshed and as if they were floating in the air. Tang Zheng took a deep breath and stared at the bottle. This was what Xing Feng dreamed of, and it was taken from the tree of life. Of course, it wasn't an ordinary thing, but how to use it was a headache. At that time, Xing Feng wanted to drink it directly, but Tang Zheng didn't dare to be so rash. He knew more about the magical aspects of the tree of life than Xing Feng. As for the magical effects of this tree's sap, he still couldn't make a conclusion. Therefore, how to use it to maximize its value was the key. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a great waste to recklessly waste God's gift? He wouldn't take the sap from the tree of life without restraint like Xing Feng, because the tree of life shouldered the heavy responsibility of absorbing the energy of the world of spirits and souls. If taking the sap would affect the tree of life, then the loss would outweigh the gain. Therefore, this bottle of sap was unique and must not be wasted. Bang! Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and the Empyrean fairy rushed in with shining eyes. The others also stood at the door and looked inside curiously. The strange smell had spread throughout the villa, attracting everyone's attention. What is this? It smells so good. The Empyrean fairy pointed at the bottle and couldn't wait to ask. The sap from the tree of life. Tang Zheng didn't hide it and told her the truth. The sap from the tree of life? The Empyrean fairy's face suddenly changed and sternly reprimanded, how can you be so crazy to take out the sap from the tree of life? This is draining the pond to catch all the fish, do you know? Tang Zheng's heart trembled and anxiously asked, draining the pond to catch all the fish, what do you mean? You don't even know the consequences and you dare to do this, really? The ignorant are fearless. The Empyrean fairy said angrily. This wasn't taken out by me, it was by someone else. Tang Zheng explained, feeling wronged. Not you. The Empyrean fairy was startled. Then who was it? Xing Feng. The Empyrean fairy frowned and said, who is he? Tang Zheng shook his head and said, it doesn't matter who he is. According to what you said, taking out the sap from the tree of life will have serious consequences. What are the consequences? The tree of life is related to the spiritual energy and energy of this world. If the sap is taken out, it will affect the function of the tree of life, affect the transformation of the spiritual energy of this world by the tree of life, and even the various magical functions of the tree of life will be affected. Spiritual energy was an important source of energy for a cultivator's cultivation, so if there was a change in spiritual energy, it would be a very serious matter for the cultivator. This was why the Empyrean fairy's reaction was so big. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat, faintly feeling uneasy and nervously asked, you said that it will affect the various magical functions of the tree of life, then will it affect? Tang Zheng did not finish his words and hesitated. The Empyrean fairy said unhappily, if you have something to say, just say it, what are you dawdling for? He used the tree of life to absorb the energy of the ghost realm, increasing the level of this world and preventing its destruction. This was one of the biggest secrets and only Tang Zheng knew about it. So, he was weighing the pros and cons and whether or not to tell the Empyrean fairy. The Empyrean fairy's power is profound and she lives in this world, so if I tell her, there should be no harm. After all, if this world is destroyed, she won't be able to stay out of it. Tang Zheng silently thought. Thinking of this, he did not hide it and said, the world we are in now is a small world, and a small world is in danger of being destroyed at any time. After all, it is only after being promoted to a large world that it will not be destroyed. So, I used the Tree of Life to secretly absorb the energy of the ghost realm, and replenish our world. This is a major matter that concerns the survival of this world. The Empyrean fairy's eyelids jumped, and she looked at him suspiciously and asked, "Where did you hear about the matter of the large and small worlds? Don't use Tian Chanzi to fool me, he would not know about this kind of thing." Tang Zheng was very surprised. Even Tian Chanzi did not know about this. This was something he did not expect. Could it be that the secret of the 3,000 large worlds and 9,000 small worlds was the real secret? He learned this from the 5-clawed golden dragon, so it seemed that the dragon clan knew a lot of secrets. The 5-clawed golden dragon was a big secret, and the heaven and earth obsidian was buried under the imperial city, so how could Tang Jing easily show it to others? So he said vaguely, "Let's talk about this later. First, tell me about the matter of the Tree of Life absorbing the energy of the ghost realm. Will it be affected?" The Empyrean fairy looked at him with burning eyes and said faintly after a while, "Actually, I don't know either." Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. "You don't know either?" The Empyrean fairy said with shame, Maybe, it will be affected." Seeing her uncertain look, Tang Jing shook his head and sighed and said, "It seems that there is no accurate answer. The Tree of Life is too mysterious, its secrets are not fully known, so I can't make a judgment." The Empyrean fairy added. Chapter 8:11. Looking at the worried face of Tang Jing, the Empyrean fairy looked at him with a burning gaze and sighed, "You really have a compassionate heart to actually use the Tree of Life to absorb the energy of the ghost realm for the sake of the lives of other unrelated people in this world. It is a miracle that you can think of this method. Moreover, this is a very risky action. If the ghost realm finds out, then you will definitely become the target of the ghost realm." Tang Jing smiled bitterly, "I am not as noble as you say, I am also a person of this world. If I don't think for this world, then I will also die." "You have a kind heart, there is no doubt about that." The Empyrean fairy shook her head. "If the Tree of Life is really affected, then your actions towards the ghost realm will be exposed. You have to be careful." Tang Zheng's head trembled. He had seen the strength of the ghost realm, although it was only the tip of the iceberg, but he was sure that the strength of the ghost realm definitely exceeded that of the human world. If the ghost realm were to deal with him, then he would really be in trouble. Seeing Fang Shishir and Marshall also standing at the door, staring at him worriedly, Tang Jing squeezed out a smile and said, "Don't worry, I am fine, you can leave." He and the Empyrean fairy had many things to discuss. He did not want his women to worry, so he deliberately sent them away. "Fu Yao is already so serious, you still say you are fine?" Fang Shishir said unhappily. "I am really fine, she estimated it to be too serious. You can leave first, I will come find you in a while." Tang Jing said seriously. Seeing him so insistent, Fang Shishir and Marshall looked at each other. They had no choice but to leave and return to the living room to sit down. The two of them had deep worry between their brows. Finally, Fang Shishir was the first to break the silence and asked, "You have experienced so many things with her, do you know what is going on in the ghost realm?" Marshall shook her head and said, "I also want to ask you, after all, you are also a cultivator." Fang Shishir's two curved eyebrows were tightly knitted together as she said, "I've always been overseas, how would I know about these things? Moreover, look at his attitude, it's obvious that he doesn't want us to know." Wu Liei pondered for a moment and said, "He doesn't want us to worry." Fang Shishir nodded heavily. The two women came to the same answer based on their own judgment. Fang Shishir had long guessed that Tang Zheng had an unclear relationship with Marshall, so he was not interested in being jealous. He went straight to the point and asked, "Can you figure out what exactly is going on in the ghost realm? He's so protective of us, we can't just sit around and do nothing." Wu said, "You are very important to him. If you ask him, he will definitely tell you." "Aren't you very important to him too?" Fang Shishir blurted out. Marshall was startled, not knowing how to answer. Wasn't this clearly stating their relationship? Although the two of them had a tacit understanding of each other's relationship with Tang Zheng, they had never made it clear. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere immediately changed. The two of them fell into silence. At this moment, Tang Zheng and the Empyrean fairy were chatting enthusiastically. Tang Zheng asked the Empyrean fairy about the ghost realm. The Empyrean fairy did her best to answer one by one. Tang Zheng was even more aware of the difference in strength between the ghost realm and the human world. If the ghost realm really knew what he had done, they would probably eliminate him at all costs. Damn that Xingfeng. If he didn't do such a crazy thing, how could it cause such a big trouble in the future? Tang Jing thought indignantly. The ghost realm can find out about this, but you have no way to lead them. The most important thing now is to increase your strength. These juices are very precious things that cannot be exchanged with money. If you use them properly, it will definitely be very beneficial to you. How can I maximize its value? Tang Jing humbly asked for advice. Alchemy. The Empyrean fairy said straightforwardly, refining it into a medicinal pill can maximize its effect. It's better than taking it directly. Tang Jing was overjoyed and said, Alchemy? What kind of medicinal pill should I refine? This juices contains endless spiritual energy. What's more precious is that it is full of vitality. It is a sacred medicine for healing injuries. It has the miraculous effect of reviving the dead and regrowing flesh and bones. As long as a person still has a breath left, he can definitely be brought back to life. If you are injured in a battle, take the medicinal pill and your injury will be healed, and you will be full of energy again. When you are fighting with a strong enemy, this can turn the tide of the battle and turn defeat into victory. The Empyrean fairy said slowly. Tang Jing was overwhelmed. Through this simple introduction, he understood the importance of this medicinal pill. He couldn't wait to ask, what kind of medicinal pill is that? 9 Transformations Resurrection Pill. Tang Jing silently remembered this name. This was the medicinal pill that Tian Chanzi didn't tell him. Without the pill formula, it would be extremely difficult for him to refine it. Do you have the pill formula? Of course. The Empyrean fairy said, if you don't know the method of alchemy, I can do it for you. Even though this was a very tempting suggestion, Tang Jing still tactfully declined. I also know some shallow alchemy techniques, so this time I will just embarrass myself. Refining this kind of miraculous medicinal pill was very important for him to train his alchemy skills. How could Tang Jing let go of this great opportunity? Otherwise, if he missed this village, there wouldn't be another shop like this. However, it had been a long time since he last refined a medicinal pill. The 9 Transformations Pill Furnace was almost covered in dust. The 9 Transformations Pill Furnace flew out from Sumeru World. It floated in the air and spun rapidly before slowly landing on the ground. 9 Transformations Pill Furnace. The Empyrean fairy called out after a glance. Tang Jing gave a thumbs up and praised, amazing, you recognized it at a glance. Why is it only an Earth-grade magic treasure? Isn't the 9 Transformations Pill Furnace a Heaven-grade magic treasure? The Empyrean fairy curiously asked. When I first obtained the 9 Transformations Pill Furnace, its grade was even lower. This is after it recovered a lot. I speculate that the 9 Transformations Pill Furnace must have been damaged in the past. That's why its grade dropped so much. Tang Jing explained. The Empyrean fairy slightly nodded and said regretfully, it should be like this. It's just a pity that such an alchemy and tool refining furnace would be lost. Tang Jing didn't care and said, since I have already raised its grade, I can also raise it to a heaven-grade magic treasure in the future. The Empyrean fairy chuckled and said, you are thinking too simply. Is it very difficult? Is it not difficult? Tang Jing rolled his eyes. He really didn't think it was too difficult. What he lacked was opportunity. As long as he had the opportunity, raising the grade of the 9 Transformations Pill Furnace wouldn't be difficult. I have a heaven-grade furnace. I can lend it to you to refine this one time. The Empyrean fairy volunteered. Tang Jing shook his head and refused. Although the 9 Transformations Pill Furnace's grade isn't high, I am already very familiar with it. That's why I still use it. Otherwise it will rust. The Empyrean fairy didn't insist and said, I will tell you the pill recipe. When you refine it, I will stand guard at your side. Okay, thank you. With such an expert protecting him, he would be much more relaxed. The pill recipe wasn't too complicated. There were a few complicated herbs that Tang Jing had already prepared. After all, he had a cheap disciple like the King of Medicine. The King of Medicine had given him many precious herbs and he had put them all in Sumeru World. Seeing Tang Jing take out one herb after another, the Empyrean fairy secretly nodded and said, you are very well prepared. It seems like you often refine pills. Tang Jing blushed with shame and smiled. He hadn't refined pills for a long time and hoped that his technique wasn't too rusty. Otherwise, he would be laughed at by the Empyrean fairy. Actually, the normal 9 Transformation Soul Return pill does not have the effect of reviving the dead or regrowing flesh and bones. However, it is still a sacred medicine for healing injuries. All that was left was to refine the 9 Transformations Pill Furnace. The refining process of the 9 Transformations Soul Returning Pill was not done in a short period of time. It required a long time for the medicinal properties of the liquid to be fully displayed. This was the 9 transformations pill furnace's automatic process and did not require manual control. Chapter 8:12. The refining of the 9 revolutions soul-returning pill took an extremely long time as they waited for an entire day and night. During this time, Tang Jing circled around the 9 revolutions pill furnace again and again as he felt somewhat apprehensive. Although he followed the Empyrean Fairy's instructions to the letter, he still did not know whether or not he would succeed. After all, the sap from the Tree of Life was not something that could be compared to other things. Once used, it would be gone. Fang Shisher and Marshall also came to ask him a few times, but seeing that he was completely focused on refining the pill, they did not voice their doubts. The two of them were filled with thoughts and could only choose to remain silent for the time being. In the evening, the sky had already darkened and the villa was brightly lit. Everyone was gathered together as they stared at the 9 revolutions pill furnace. Even Mu Hongyan and Nana were curiously gathered around as this was the first time they had seen a pill being refined. They were both curious and excited as they looked forward to it. The 9 revolutions pill furnace had already stopped spinning and was quietly resting on the ground. However, the top of the furnace was still covered by a layer of purple light, making it impossible to see what was going on inside. Tang Jing's expression was solemn as he took a deep breath and slapped his hands on the outside of the furnace. Kacha. The purple light shattered and completely dispersed. A gentle white light soared into the sky and instantly filled the entire room. A strange fragrance assailed everyone's nostrils, causing their limbs and bones to feel incomparably comfortable. Everyone was bathed in the light as if they had returned to their mother's embrace. A mysterious feeling of intimacy involuntarily arose and everyone's lips could not help but curl into a beautiful arc. What's wrong with me? Why do I have such a strange feeling? Everyone's heart was filled with this question as they looked at each other in dismay. However, when they saw the expressions of the others, they became even more puzzled. Tang Jing could not help but exclaim in surprise. The Empyrean Fairy had said that the 9 revolutions soul-returning pill had the miraculous effect of reviving the dead and regrowing flesh and bones. It seemed that this was not an exaggeration, as the strange phenomenon that the pill was displaying was enough to explain many things. The 9th Heaven Fairy's eyelids twitched a few times. Suppressing the throbbing in her heart, she pretended to be calm and urged, "Hurry up and see how the pills are doing." Tang Jing chuckled and waved his hand. Voila! Rays of light surged like the clouds in the sky. Several pills rose up and floated above the 9 revolving pill furnace. The elixir was completely white like white jade. It emitted a gentle white light and a fragrance filled the air. Is this the 9 transformation soul return pill? Fang Shisher smacked her lips and exclaimed. The others had the same reaction. They all exclaimed, "So beautiful, so magical." Tang Jing also felt guilty as he stared at the 9 transformation soul return pellet. The 9 transformation soul return pellet was successfully refined, and not just one pellet but a total of 36. This far exceeded his expectations. Empyrean Fairy's eyes were also filled with amazement. She had originally estimated that Tang Jing would only be able to refine around 20 pills. But the final result was far beyond her expectations. She looked at Tang Jing in disbelief. She secretly muttered to herself, "His cultivation is still lacking. How can his alchemy skills be so good?" Moreover, this was his first time refining the 9 transformation soul return pill. He wasn't even familiar with the pill recipe, yet it had such an effect. Strange. Could it be that celestials are so blessed by the heavens? Her heart was filled with jealousy. Tang Jing obviously didn't know what Empyrean Fairy was feeling. Otherwise he would be extremely happy. After all, the Empyrean Fairy was so mysterious and powerful. Even she was jealous. This was one of life's greatest blessings. Don't just stare. Hurry up and take them. The Empyrean Fairy urged. Tang Jing seemed to have awoken from a dream. With a wave of his hand, the 36 pills flew into the bottle in his hand. The light that filled the sky suddenly converged on the 9 transformations pill furnace. In the blink of an eye, the light dissipated, completely absorbed by the 9 transformations pill furnace. Immediately, the 9 transformations pill furnace began to emit a faint light. The beasts carved on the walls of the furnace seemed to come alive and actually began to move. Whoosh whoosh. They left the 9 transformations pill furnace and transformed into clumps of illusory figures. They either flew or ran along the walls of the furnace. This scene immediately attracted everyone's attention. Tang Jing's heart moved, faintly feeling that something was about to happen. Mom, it's so beautiful. Look at those animals, they've all come alive. Nana was like a little fairy, clapping her hands and cheering excitedly. Her big eyes stared at those illusory figures as if she wanted to rush up and hug them. Mu Hongyan hurriedly pulled her daughter and whispered, "Nana, be quiet. Don't disturb your brother." She was also overwhelmed with emotions. Although her deceased husband was also a cultivator, his strength could not be compared to Tang Zheng's. Moreover, he was usually very secretive. When he was cultivating, he did not even allow her to approach him. He was not like Tang Zheng, who was so open and candid, allowing them to watch as they pleased. In comparison, her deceased husband was completely inferior. This made Tang Zheng seem even more extraordinary. The Empyrean fairy stared at the 9 transformations pill furnace. Her cherry lips could not help but open as she exclaimed, "The 9 transformations pill furnace is about to be upgraded." A few days ago, she had solemnly vowed that it would be very difficult for the 9 transformations pill furnace to return to its former peak. But in less than 2 days, all of this had happened. Without a doubt, her estimation was wrong. This did not mean that her eyesight was not good, but that she had judged Tang Zheng by the standards of an ordinary person. This was the root of her miscalculation. Tang Zheng was not an ordinary person. Even the average genius could not be compared to him. Therefore, the Empyrean fairy's experience was not applicable. When the others heard this, they became even more excited. Today was really an eye-opener. Not only did they see alchemy, they could also personally witness the upgrade of a magic weapon. To them, this was not an easy matter. The corners of Tang Zheng's mouth rose. As the owner of the 9 transformations pill furnace, he naturally knew that the Empyrean fairy's words were not false. The 9 transformations pill furnace was really upgrading. All of this was due to the light that filled the room. This light contained a powerful medicinal property which was absorbed by the 9 transformations pill furnace, allowing it to complete its upgrade. In fact, it was not impossible for the 9 transformations pill furnace to upgrade. As long as enough pills or magic weapons were refined, the accumulation of medicinal properties would slowly influence the 9 transformations pill furnace. Then, there would be a day when it would return to the peak of a heaven-grade magic weapon. But at that time, the accumulation of medicinal properties was not something that could be done overnight. But now, just because the 9 transformations soul-returning pill was refined, the 9 transformations pill furnace's accumulation of medicinal properties was completed, resulting in a qualitative change. The phantoms of the birds and beasts flew towards the 9 transformations pill furnace. Then they turned into carvings that floated on the walls of the furnace. They were vivid and lifelike as if they were living creatures. The 9 transformations pill furnace's light converged and stopped rotating. An ordinary person could feel that it had changed. It was more mysterious than before, and its dark exterior gave off an indescribable feeling. Heaven-grade magic weapon. Tang Zheng could not help but shout out. At that time, he had accidentally picked up a bargain and bought the 9 transformations pill furnace from the auction. He never thought that it would be of such great help to him. Whether it was the life-continuing pill, the spirit-gathering pill, the Dragon Yuan pill, or now the 9 transformation soul-returning pill, if he did not have the 9 transformations pill furnace, then all of these would have been like flowers in a mirror and the moon in the water. He subconsciously stroked the 9 transformations pill furnace. A strong resonance caused the true qi in his body to boil. It was as if he had become one with the furnace. The Empyrean fairy's expression returned to normal as she said, "Don't be happy too early. The 9 transformations pill furnace has not truly recovered to its peak." These words were like a bucket of cold water that was poured over his head. It immediately pulled Tang Zheng back from his excitement. He looked at the Empyrean fairy in bewilderment and asked, "Isn't it already a heaven-grade magic weapon? How come it has not recovered to its peak?" The Empyrean fairy chuckled twice. "You think that the 9 transformations pill furnace has recovered to its peak? It seems that you do not understand its original glory. The real reason why the 9 transformations pill furnace was praised by others, other than being a heaven-grade magic weapon, was because it had an artifact spirit." Artifact spirit? Tang Zheng was shocked. What is an artifact spirit? The Empyrean fairy looked at him in disbelief and said, "You don't know what an artifact spirit is? Doesn't your war spirit sword have an artifact spirit?" Tang Zheng's heart moved and he suddenly realized that the artifact spirit she was talking about was the sword spirit. The weapon spirit was also known as the artifact spirit. It was the most important component of a weapon. What is so special about the 9 transformations pill furnace that has an artifact spirit? Tang Jing did not pay attention to the disbelief and ridicule in the Empyrean fairy's eyes and humbly asked for advice. Seeing that he was sincere and did not seem to be lying, the Empyrean fairy finally believed him and said, "With an artifact spirit, the 9 transformations pill furnace has an artifact spirit. When it refines pills or magic weapons, the owner does not need to worry about it. Everything can be handed over to the artifact spirit and it will automatically refine the pills. Whether it is the control of the heat or the quantity, it will be perfect. The same materials can be used to refine more pills and the quality of the pills will be higher. Do you think the artifact spirit is important?" Tang Jing subconsciously nodded and asked, "Then how can a magic weapon have an artifact spirit?" "Not all magic weapons can have an artifact spirit. This is an opportunity for the owner and also an opportunity for the magic weapon itself. There is no unified conclusion and there is no specific method," the Empyrean fairy explained. Tang Jing bitterly smiled, "So it depends on luck? You can say that, but obviously your luck is not bad." The War Spirit Sword has an artifact spirit and is already a high-quality heaven-grade magic weapon. It is just that I see that the heaven-grade flying immortal sword technique that you are practicing is not able to fully display its power," the Empyrean fairy said without any trace of politeness. Tang Jing suddenly froze as this was somewhat out of his expectations. He always thought that the heaven-grade flying immortal sword technique was a very powerful sword technique that accompanied him through ups and downs and killed countless enemies. But from the Empyrean fairy's words, this sword technique was not much. No matter who it was, when they heard this news, their heart would be somewhat depressed. Chapter 8:13. Seeing the Empyrean fairy's solemn vow, Tang Jing curiously asked, "Then do you know of any sword technique in this world that is more compatible with battle spirit? Your battle spirit contains a powerful yin qi. If you can find a sword technique that is compatible with the yin qi, you will be able to display its power." The Empyrean fairy muttered, "Is there such a sword technique?" "Of course there is." The Empyrean fairy nodded her head as if it was a matter of course. There are millions of sword techniques in this world, and there are many exquisite sword techniques. But to find a sword technique that suits your heart, you must have a great opportunity. Tang Jing shook his head, thinking that it was fine. After talking for so long, he still had to rely on luck. There was no ready-made target for him to pursue. However, the harvest this time was already great. Not only did he successfully refine the 9 Revolutions Soul Returning Pill, but the 9 Revolutions Pill Furnace had also been upgraded to a heaven-grade treasure. Tang Jing put away the 9 Revolutions Pill Furnace and focused his attention on the 9 Revolutions Soul Returning Pill, saying, "Does this pill really have such a miraculous ability? If you don't believe me, you can try it." "How?" "Kill yourself. When your life is hanging by a thread, take the 9 Revolutions Soul Returning Pill," the Empyrean fairy lightly said. Tang Jing was stunned, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head and said, "Forget it, I won't try it. I'll try it and believe you. But there are a total of 36 pills here. Everyone who sees it will have a share." These people were all very important to him. Although the 9 Revolution Soul Returning Pill was important, it was not as important as these people. So he unceremoniously decided to share it with them. Everyone was shocked and said, "How can this be?" Especially Mu Hongyan, who shook her head like a rattledrum. Although she had always been in charge of Tang Jing's business, she could not compare to Fang Shishir, who had a close relationship with Tang Jing. So she never thought that she would also have a share. Although Tang Jing generously offered to share some with her, she still refused without hesitation. Fang Shishir, Wu and Lu Qingmei all shook their heads at the same time and said, "You often encounter danger. This kind of miraculous medicine is most suitable for you." The 3 women had the same thoughts about Tang Jing. They cared about him more than they cared about themselves. How could they accept such an important treasure? On the contrary, and didn't back down and said in surprise, "Really? Thank you very much. Don't worry. Isn't there a saying in Wuxia that reciprocity demands reciprocity? I will definitely give you a generous gift in return." Seeing that and refused without hesitation, the other women glared at her. How could there be such a rude person? Seeing this, Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He advised, "I'm serious, everyone has a share. Although this 9 Revolution Soul Returning Pill is an extremely rare miraculous medicine, it's not as important as you guys." Wow, such romantic words. And clasped her hands together and praised, "I'll give you a kiss as a reward." Saying this, she passionately threw herself at him. Tang Zheng's expression slightly changed as he hurriedly retreated a few steps to avoid her. What a joke. With so many women watching, if he wanted to be hacked to death, then he would have to accept this kiss. As expected, Fang Shishir and the others fiercely glared at Anne before looking at Tang Zheng with an unkind expression. Tang Zheng hurriedly changed the topic and said, "Everyone, don't argue. I have already made up my mind. Of course, I will still leave some for future troubles." The people who were important to him were not limited to the people in front of him. There were only 36 9-revolution soul-returning pills. Seeing that Tang Zheng had already made up his mind, Fang Shishir said, "Then I only want one." Without a doubt, with her taking the lead and stating the amount, the others were too embarrassed to ask for more. After all, she was Tang Zheng's official girlfriend, and was a bit disappointed and muttered, "Good things come in pairs. 2 pills would be great." The others pretended not to hear. Seeing that Tang Zheng was sincere, they could not refuse. Tang Zheng originally wanted to give everyone 2 pills, but since they insisted, he did not force them. He gave everyone 1 9-revolution soul-returning pill, giving them a total of 7 pills. "I also get one?" Empyrean Fairy looked at the 9-revolution soul-returning pill in her hand in shock. "You don't want it?" "I want it." Empyrean Fairy impatiently put it away. She understood the value of this pill better than the others. Although it was only 1 pill, it was still a treasure that could not be exchanged for even with money. "This is what you deserve. Not only did you provide the pill recipe, you also protected me. Being able to successfully refine the 9-revolution soul-returning pill was because of your indispensable contribution. In fact, you deserve more." Tang Zheng sincerely said. "1 pill is more than enough." Empyrean Fairy was not greedy. "I only moved my lips. You were the one who did the work in thought." Everyone returned to their rooms to rest. Fang Shishir lay in his embrace and took out the 9-revolution soul-returning pill, saying, "I'll return this to you. You know I have no use for it." She had coincidentally inherited the vampire's ability to heal wounds, so it was extremely difficult to harm her. She felt that she had no use for it, so she left it to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng pushed it away and said, "Since I've given it to you, then keep it well. As for what you want to do with it, it's up to you. But it's more important to you." Fang Shishir said anxiously, "I still have 29 pills." Seeing his insistence, Fang Shishir had no choice but to accept it. The next day, everyone either attended classes or went to school. Tang Zheng stayed at home to practice martial arts and digest the gains he had made during this time. The Empyrean Fairy brought Nana to practice martial arts in the courtyard. Nana practiced martial arts methodically and had a bit of a stance. This set of martial arts was used to strengthen her body's muscles and bones. It was only because she was still young that she could use this method. If she were an adult, it might not be possible. The Empyrean Fairy taught according to the individual's ability. She could be considered a great teacher. Suddenly, a person stood at the door and looked inside. When he saw the 2 beauties, one big and one small, his eyes widened and his throat became dry. He swallowed a large mouthful of saliva. The Empyrean Fairy swept her gaze over and coldly looked at the other party. The person smiled shamelessly and said, "May I ask if Tang Zheng lives here?" "Who are you?" the Empyrean Fairy asked coldly. Looking at this person's ugly face, she was a little hesitant. She knew that this person must be a scoundrel. "I'm Tang Zheng's counselor. My surname is Yan and my name is Liang." Yan Liang introduced himself politely, but he was cursing indignantly in his heart. What did Tang Zheng do? Not only did he have the favor of Princess Anne, but he also lived in such a luxurious villa. This was something he could never afford in his life. What was more infuriating was that he was hiding such a beautiful and fairy-like woman in his house. He had all the good things in the world. Yan Liang wished that he could replace Tang Zheng, but he could only think about it as it was impossible for him to do so. Ever since he saw the intimate relationship between Tang Zheng and Princess Annie, he no longer had any thoughts of resistance. If he had a choice, he would never want to see Tang Zheng and make trouble for himself. But this time he had a huge mission. Even if he was unwilling, he had to come. He spent a lot of effort to find out where Tang Zheng lived. When he first saw the villa, he thought he had come to the wrong place. Tang Zheng was a student, and it was said that his family was not well off. How could he live in such a luxurious villa? He must be trying to please Princess Anne. That's why such a good thing happened to him. He guessed, thinking that he was smart. The Empyrean Fairy did not even look at him, nor did she invite him in. She just left him at the door and shouted into the house, "Tang Zheng, someone is looking for you." Tang Zheng heard the voice and walked out. When he saw Yen Liang, he could not help but be stunned. What was he trying to do here? Yen Liang was good at currying favor. After Professor Qi lost power, he was very ugly and made things difficult for Professor Qi. So Tang Jing had taught him a lesson. If Professor Qi had not stopped him, Tang Jing would have made him feel even worse. However, since then, Yen Liang basically avoided him and did not dare to show his face in front of him. Today the sun must have risen from the west. He actually dared to come to his house. Tang Jing strode to the door, looked at him indifferently and asked, "What are you looking for me for?" Yen Liang quickly took out a brand new student ID and handed it to Tang Jing. He affectionately said, "Student Tang Jing, long time no see. You are getting more and more handsome. Last time, our school did not do a good job and made a mistake in canceling your student status. We have corrected it. This is your new student ID." Tang Jing did not take it. He looked at the other party and said, "I have been cancelled by Yenqing University. So, I am no longer a student of Yen University." Misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. Yen Liang quickly waved his hand. "We have severely punished the staff who made the mistake. So, your student status is still at Yenqing University. This time, I am here to tell you about this and invite you to come back to school when you are free." Tang Jing could not help but laugh and said, "This is not a misunderstanding. Didn't the officials announce that I am dead? You are just doing things according to the rules." Yes, this is an error in the official message transmission. Our school is not the main responsibility. So, we hereby explain to student Tang Jing that your student status will be restored. Yen Liang said, nodding his head like he was pounding garlic. This time, the principal gave a strict order to invite Tang Jing back to school. This person's experience was too unimaginable. He had actually gained the favor of Princess Anne. If they knew that he was not dead but still deleted his student status, what would Princess Anne think? A famous foreign royal princess studying at Yenqing University was a good thing that many universities in the country would fight over. During this period of time, Yenqing University's influence in the country had significantly increased. Among them, Princess Anne's name played a pivotal role. So, if Princess Anne left halfway, it would definitely be a huge loss to the school. One of the best ways to keep Princess Anne was to keep Tang Jing. If they knew that Tang Jing was not dead but still deleted his student status, then Princess Anne would be angry and the school would suffer. So, the important task of inviting Tang Jing back to school fell on the instructor, Yen Liang. Chapter 8:14. Yen Liang left in a daze. When he returned, he was scolded by the principal for not doing his job well. However, Tang Jing was not in the mood to care about Yen Liang. The difference in status between the two was like heaven and earth. He would rather cultivate in peace than deal with this kind of person. He used the sky swallowing technique to absorb other people's energy to increase his own cultivation twice. This was a good thing but also a bad thing. He realized that he was relying too much on the sky swallowing technique. This was not a good idea. If he continued to use this method to increase his cultivation, it would shake his foundation. The losses outweighed the gains. Therefore, he concentrated on cultivating and consolidating his cultivation. The next day the school leaders came to find him. Tang Jing closed the door and refused to see them. They seemed to want to send him back to school. Tang Jing snorted and was unmoved. The only people in Yenqing University that he was reluctant to leave were his classmates and Professor Qi Shaowen. He was not familiar with the others, so naturally he had no feelings for them. As for the school leaders, after seeing what they did to Professor Qi, he did not have a good impression of them. The school leaders were rebuffed and left dejectedly. After wholeheartedly cultivating for a few days, Tang Jing's harvest was plentiful as he consolidated his cultivation. Moreover, his cultivation showed signs of reaching the next level. He believed that if he put in more effort he would definitely be able to reach the 5th grade of Jindan. After returning to the capital for a few days, he still had not gone to see Yi Dingdang. Coincidentally, he refined the 9 transformation soul return pill. When night fell, Yi Dingdang had already returned home from school. She saw Tang Jing standing downstairs and was pleasantly surprised like a swallow flying into his arms. "Why are you here?" "Because I missed you." "Humph, at least you have a conscience." During this period of time she really missed Tang Jing. After the intimate skin-to-skin contact, the relationship between the two broke through that barrier. Tang Jing's figure would often appear in Yi Dingdang's mind, so much so that she would occasionally laugh foolishly in class. "Come, let's go upstairs," Tang Jing said. Yi Dingdang shook her head. "No, let's kiss first." She raised her head and looked at him expectantly. Looking at the beautiful face that was so close to him, Tang Jing shook his head. She was different from other people. She was passionate and dared to love and hate. The other girls wouldn't ask him for a kiss in public. However, this feeling was really good. He lowered his head and kissed her. After tasting the forbidden fruit for the first time, Yi Dingdang was immediately aroused. She hooked her arms around his neck and responded to him passionately. Cough cough. There was a sudden cough. Yi Dingdang bounced back as if she had been electrocuted. She looked at the person in bewilderment. This voice was too familiar. It was actually her father, Yi Tianlei. Yi Tianlei looked at the two awkwardly. When did the two of them become so close? Tang Jing's skin was thick enough. His face didn't turn red and his heart didn't skip a beat. It was as if nothing had happened. He nodded at Yi Tianlei and calmly said, "Uncle Yi, you're back." Yi Tianlei looked at Tang Jing with a complicated expression. Tang Jing was the benefactor of the Ye family and was also his boss. Moreover, Feng Xinyang always wanted him to be her son-in-law. Thus, Tang Jing's identity was too complicated. Even if he bumped into their good thing, he couldn't say anything. He faintly sighed and said, "You're here. I haven't come to see you in a long time. I just happened to be free today. Then let's go upstairs." After Yi Tianlei finished speaking, he took the lead and walked in. Yi Dingdang fiercely glared at Tang Jing and complained in a voice as soft as a mosquito. "You only came to see me when you were free. You didn't come especially to see me." "How could that be? I came especially to see you." "Hang, at least you have a conscience," Yi Dingdang happily said. How could this be hidden from Yi Tianlei's ears? He helplessly shook his head and thought that his children and grandchildren had their own fortune. He couldn't care less. Moreover, this was a good thing that his wife was happy to see. As expected, Feng Xinyang saw the three of them enter together. Her face was about to bloom with a smile as she quickly welcomed Tang Jing in. Yi Dingdang saw her mother's appearance. She curled her lips and said, "Feng Xinyang, why do I feel that you treat Tang Jing better than you treat your daughter?" Feng Xinyang happily said, "Of course. Don't you see how outstanding the little handsome is? Not only is he handsome, he's also young and promising. If I don't treat this kind of young talent well, who else would I treat well?" "But I'm your daughter," Yi Dingdang argued. "I've already raised you for more than 10 years. I've long seen enough. Of course the little handsome is even more interesting." Feng Xinyang said. "Forget it. I've been defeated by you. Biased." Cough cough. Yi Tianlei dryly coughed twice and said, "Let the young people talk. Why are you interfering? Go and cook." Feng Xinyang coldly glared and said, "Yi Tianlei, when did you command me?" Yi Tianlei did not dare to contradict her. He embarrassedly smiled. "How am I commanding you? Isn't this a suggestion?" "That's more like it." Feng Xinyang's face lit up with joy again. "Little handsome, you and Dingdang play for a while. Aunt Feng will immediately go and prepare the meal. Go to my room." Yi Dingdang did not allow any explanation as she pulled Tang Jing into the room. Yi Tianlei wanted to stop her but was interrupted by Feng Xinyang. "Why are you stopping me? How can you let the two of them be in the same room? You don't know what I just saw." Yi Tianlei anxiously said. "What did you see?" "They were kissing." Yi Tianlei hesitated for a moment before saying. Feng Xinyang's eyes lit up and said, "Wow, this girl has finally been enlightened. Not bad, she's very similar to this old mother's style." Yi Tianlei helplessly rolled his eyes and said, "Is there a mother like you? Other mothers are strictly guarded, deeply afraid that their daughter will be at a disadvantage. You, on the other hand, can't wait to push your daughter away. Little handsome is so outstanding. If other mothers met such a good son-in-law, I'm afraid they would be more powerful than me. If they were as stubborn as you, little handsome would have long been seduced away by other women. Where would there be a place for our daughter? You have to fight for your own happiness. Women are no exception. But she is after all a girl. She has to be reserved." Yi Tianlei's words had not yet finished when he was fiercely grabbed by Feng Xinyang's waist and said, "You're saying that I wasn't reserved in the past? If I wanted to be reserved, where would there be a place for you?" Yi Tianlei did not think that he would suffer such an unexpected calamity. He quickly begged for mercy. "I didn't mean that. You misunderstood." I misunderstood? Then come to the kitchen and explain clearly. Otherwise, you won't have a share in tonight's dinner." Feng Xinyang's heroic spirit was high-spirited, valiant and heroic. Yi Tianlei was helpless as he was dragged to the kitchen to work as a laborer and did not have the chance to interfere with Tang Jing and Yi Dingdang. The two people were already passionately entangled together. They rolled on the bed. Their limbs were entangled together. Their lips were tightly pressed together as they passionately kissed. Yi Dingdang's breath was like orchids. Tang Jing's passion was like fire. Yi Dingdang was wearing a pair of denim shorts. Tang Jing's slender legs fell into Yi Dingdang's palms. Her skin was as smooth as silk and as white as jade. It made Tang Jing forget to go back. His other hand was not well behaved. It drilled into the t-shirt, attacking and conquering, bravely climbing to the peak. Don't, they are outside. Yi Dingdang hurriedly grabbed his hand, trying to stop him. It's okay. The door is closed. You're not allowed to do that. You can only touch. Otherwise I'll kick you off the bed. Yi Dingdang took a step back. Can you bear to kick me? Tang Jing said shamelessly. Yi Dingdang winked slyly. You can try. Tang Jing knew Yi Dingdang's temper. He compromised. Then let's not try. I'll just touch. Yi Dingdang was like a victorious general as she proudly raised her head. But in the next moment she took a deep breath and tenderly said, Be gentle. Tang Jing used a bit of force and said, Do you still dare to kick me? I want to kick. Yi Dingdang struggled and refused to admit defeat. Haha, little girl, you still don't want to admit defeat, right? Tang Jing said with a smirk. He used more force in his hand. The warmth and softness of his hand was refreshing and made his heart sway. I don't want to admit defeat. Yi Dingdang bit her lips and grabbed with the back of her hand. Tang Jing sucked in a breath of cold air and cried out in alarm, Wah, are you trying to murder your husband? He looked down and saw that her small hands had actually slipped into his pants and grabbed his lifeline. Yi Dingdang smirked. Now you know how powerful I am. Who wants to admit defeat? I admit defeat. Tang Jing hung his head dejectedly. You're murdering your husband. You're ruining your happiness for the rest of your life. Who said you're my husband? You're so thick-skinned and shameless. Stop fooling around. Otherwise you'll really break it. Besides, if you keep doing this, what if I can't control myself and take you on the spot? Then come at me. Yi Dingdang deliberately pinched Tang Jing and winked teasingly. Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why didn't I realize you were so naughty before? Even if you dare, I wouldn't dare. Humph, coward. You dare say I'm a coward? When there's no one around, see how I'll deal with you. Tang Jing threatened. Come at me. Who's afraid of who? Yi Dingdang shrugged and didn't admit defeat. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. Feng Xinyang shouted from outside. Come out and eat. Okay, coming. The two hurriedly got off the bed and tidied up their messy clothes. Yi Dingdang's face was still a bit red. She glared fiercely at Tang Jing before the two walked out. The four of them sat around the table. Feng Xinyang constantly urged Tang Jing to eat more. She gave him food with incomparable enthusiasm. Yi Tianlei stuffed food into his mouth without tasting it. He glanced at his daughter from the corner of his eye and found that she was looking at Tang Jing with love. He couldn't help but sigh. Her status in the family was getting worse day by day. She was practically like air. He couldn't help but feel a bit sour. Most fathers would have complex emotions. A grown woman can't be kept. It seems like this woman won't be kept for long. The meal was finished amidst laughter and chatting. After chatting for a while, Tang Jing stood up and said his goodbyes. Yi Dingdang took the initiative to send him downstairs. In the darkness, the two hid behind a big tree to prevent others from seeing them. You've only been here for a while and you're already leaving. You really don't have a conscience. Yi Dingdang bitterly said. Chapter 8:15. When Yi Dingdang heard this, she heavily punched him and said, What nonsense are you thinking about? Tang Jing did not allow her to explain as he pulled her hand and said while walking, It would be bad if we were discovered here. There is a hotel nearby, so let's go to the hotel. Hooligan, a complete hooligan. Yi Dingdang did not refuse and allowed him to pull her into a nearby hotel. Bang. Just as the door was closed, Yi Dingdang cried out in alarm as she was picked up by the waist. You are too impatient. Tang Jing gasped for breath and said, Who told you to provoke me at home? Let's see who wins and who loses. Hang, do you think I'm afraid of you? Isn't there a saying that there are only tired cows but no plowed fields? Yi Dingdang proudly said. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry as he slapped her butt and said, Who taught you this? The people in the dorm said it. It seems like you have learned bad things from them. You are the worst. Then I'll show you how bad I am. Let's see if your field is better or if my cow is more powerful. Tang Jing tyrannically said. Yi Dingdang hooked her finger and said, Come, who's afraid of who? After a long drought, Yi Dingdang tasted the sweetness of the fruit and became more familiar with it. Very quickly she became one with Tang Jing. Tang Jing felt a strong attractive force coming from below, making him feel as if his soul was about to leave his body. This. Tang Jing was startled as he looked at her in disbelief. Yi Dingdang's face was full of spring as she charmingly asked, Why aren't you moving? Do you feel anything strange? What's strange? Yi Dingdang did not understand. Tang Jing took a deep breath and suppressed his strange thoughts as he continued to gallop. Suddenly, that feeling came again as if his soul was about to leave his body. Moreover, his pure yang energy was flowing from below into Yi Dingdang's body. Originally, the two of them did not have this feeling the first time, but this time it was so strong that he was puzzled. You are absorbing my pure yang energy, Tang Jing said. Yi Dingdang's mind was not clear as she asked in a daze, What pure yang energy? Tang Jing gave a rough explanation and said, How did you absorb my pure yang energy? In the past, the pure yang energy in his body had been mediated by absorbing pure yin energy. It was extremely difficult for the pure yang energy to leak out. Other than when Qin Shi Huang had absorbed his power, he had also absorbed the pure yang energy. Other than that, the pure yang energy had always been firmly rooted in his body. Yi Dingdang was also confused and said, I also don't know. Suddenly, her heart skipped a beat as she shyly said, However, every time we do this, my Jade Woman's Heart Sutra will automatically activate. Especially after we did it last time, my power increased by 2 levels. Your power has increased by 2 levels. Tang Jing took a closer look and sure enough her power had indeed increased by a lot. But his strength did not change last time. Why was this? Suddenly, his heart moved as he remembered a long time ago when Tian Chanzi occasionally mentioned something. Yi Dingdang cultivated the Jade Heart Sutra and would give him a pleasant surprise in the future. Could this be the pleasant surprise that Tian Chanzi mentioned? Yi Dingdang cultivated the Jade Heart Sutra and could actually absorb his pure yang energy. This was more effective than absorbing the pure yin energy from Yi Dingdang's body. Removing the firewood from under the cauldron, if the pure yang energy was absorbed, it would naturally reduce the danger of his body exploding. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. The heaven monk was truly cunning. He actually did not tell him, causing him to almost forget about it. Furthermore, the last time the two of them were having fun together, they did not have any strange feelings, so he forgot about it. Now it seems that Tian Chanzi's words were not false and gave him a big pleasant surprise. But whether or not this pure yang energy was harmful to Yi Dingdang was not certain. Do you feel uncomfortable? Tang Jing asked with concern. Yi Dingdang punched him and said, Rogue, after doing this you still ask me if I feel comfortable? She bit her lips and spat out 2 words, comfortable. Tang Jing knew that he had misunderstood and awkwardly explained, That's not what I meant. I was asking if there was any problem with your body. Yi Dingdang finally understood his words and suspiciously looked at him, asking, No, I just feel a warm feeling in my body as if there is a warm current flowing through my entire body. Last time I didn't feel it that strongly, but this time I feel it even more strongly. Tang Jing guessed that this was definitely because of the pure yang energy. However, since she did not have any major problems, then there was no problem. It was just that the suction force was very long-lasting and Yi Dingdang did not feel it at all. This made it difficult for Tang Jing, and not long after he was defeated. Yi Dingdang unhappily pouted and complained, Why can't I? Did you do too many bad things outside? I heard my roommate say that men do too many bad things outside, that's why they can't do it. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry and said, Don't listen to your roommate's nonsense. It's not that I can't do it. He lamented in his heart and finally recalled the teasing expression in the depths of Tian Chanzi's eyes when he said that he would give him a pleasant surprise. Perhaps his so-called pleasant surprise was not only Yi Dingdang being able to absorb pure yang energy, but also the attractive force that made him throw away his armor. Tian Chanzi, you are really bad. You want to see me make a fool of myself, right? I won't let you get your way. Tang Jing took a deep breath and said, If you dare to say that I can't do it, then just wait for the storm to come. After he finished speaking, he threw himself onto Yi Dingdang's body. Tang Jing did not win one battle after another. In the end, his legs went soft and he ended the battle with Yi Dingdang's laughter. He lay on the bed exhausted. Yi Dingdang lay on his chest, the corners of her mouth raised into a sweet smile and said, "What they said was true. There are only tired cows and no plowed fields. I'll squeeze you dry. Let's see if you can still be romantic in the future." Tang Jing wanted to cry but had no tears. How could this bullshit Jade Girl heart suture be so powerful? Jade Girl, it seemed more like a lustful woman. The two rested for a moment. Yi Dingdang was satisfied as she held onto Tang Jing's hand and walked out of the hotel. When they returned home, Yi Dingdang looked at his weak appearance and deliberately said, "How about we fight again tomorrow?" Tang Jing hurriedly waved his hand. "Killing the goose that lays the golden eggs is not a good thing. Are you scared now? Little guy, let's see if you dare to be naughty in the future. Be good and listen to me, do you understand?" Yi Dingdang patted his face and teased him with the tone of a big sister. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. This time he fell into a big mess. The next time he met Tian Chanzi, he would definitely find him to settle the score. "You should go back quickly. Otherwise they will be worried," Tang Jing urged. "I'll let you go this time. You should go back too." Yi Dingdang took the initiative to kiss him and then happily went upstairs. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang were sitting in the living room. When they saw her enter, two pairs of eyes stared at her. Yi Dingdang guiltily looked at the two and said, "I'm going to sleep." Seeing their daughter enter the room, the husband and wife looked at each other. Just now, Tang Jing and Yi Dingdang had left for 2 to 3 hours. The husband and wife's hearts were filled with apprehension as they waited for a long time. "Do you think they?" Yi Tianlei nervously asked. Feng Xinyang recalled her daughter's appearance just now. She must have been nourished by the rain. She half-heartedly said, "It's a child's matter. Why do you care so much?" "Why wouldn't I care? Dingdang is my daughter." Seeing her husband's excited appearance, Feng Xinyang did not care at all and said, "Isn't this a good thing? Now that I've firmly grasped the little handsome brother, he won't be able to escape." Yi Tianlei fiercely grabbed a handful of hair and said in distress, "But she is my daughter. A grown daughter cannot be kept. I'm going to lose her." It was said that a daughter was a father's lover in his previous life. Seeing his daughter grow up and fall into the arms of another man, Yi Tianlei's heart was indeed uncomfortable and full of jealousy. In the next few days, Tang Jing's body was peaceful. He had absorbed a lot of pure yang energy. Yin and yang were in harmony and his skills were becoming more and more profound. He sat cross-legged in the room and operated his mysterious art. The ancient clear heaven scroll's power flowed along his meridians and flowed through his limbs and bones. The dragon god's secret art also played its role. His body flickered with a golden light and occasionally dragon scales would appear on his skin. The true qi in his body steadily rose. This time, it was all from his own cultivation and not from other people's bodies. Therefore the feeling was particularly different. Whoosh! Suddenly the golden light on his body surged and the three-clawed golden dragon broke through his head. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it soared into the air and swam around the room. Strong winds blew and the golden light was dazzling. His aura steadily rose, especially the majestic dragon's aura that caused the atmosphere in the room to change. If a person stood in front of him, they would definitely kneel down. He was like an emperor. Especially with the golden dragon circling around him, the dragon's aura was grand. It made people tremble in fear and involuntarily want to submit to him. Of course, this was only for ordinary people or people with weak cultivation. If it was a strong person, they would naturally be able to resist this kind of power. Unknowingly, the golden light on the golden dragon's body became brighter and brighter. A ball of golden light gathered at its abdomen and a dragon claw stretched out from the golden light. The fourth dragon claw. Although Tang Jing's eyes were closed, he could clearly feel everything. When he saw the birth of the fourth dragon claw, he was overjoyed. This meant that the dragon god's secret art had reached the fourth layer and he could ascend to the fourth floor of Langya Pavilion. There were countless treasures hidden in Langya Pavilion. If he could ascend to the fourth floor, what kind of treasures would he find? This made him extremely excited and unable to calm down. The fourth dragon claw was still growing. The shining golden dragon scales were especially dazzling. A dragon's roar reverberated in the room. All the furniture was instantly shattered and turned into fine powder. The Empyrean fairy jumped up from the sofa in shock and rushed to Tang Jing's door like lightning. The dragon's roar was even clearer. This dragon's roar did not spread too far, but with her hearing she naturally heard it clearly. Dragon's roar. Her expression changed. What's going on? She could not help but recall the scene in the tomb. Tang Jing seemed to be about to transform into a dragon. Although he did not explain afterwards, she was still very curious. Could it be that the golden dragon had appeared again? Chapter 8:16. The Empyrean fairy suppressed her curiosity and stood at the door like a puppet. She stared at the door as if she wanted to see through it. The fourth claw of the golden dragon had completely grown out. Tang Jing had broken through to the fourth stage of the dragon god technique. The four-clawed golden dragon shone with a golden light. The dragon vein running through the dragon's body was particularly clear. The ninth main meridian in Tang Jing's body was also shining brightly and complementing the dragon vein. Back then, Tang Jing had absorbed the dragon vein of the Qinling Mountains and merged it with his ninth main meridian. The dragon vein was the ninth main meridian that connected him and the golden dragon. The golden dragon opened its mouth and roared. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it dove toward Tang Jing. Tang Jing was bathed in golden light. The golden dragon swelled and rushed into the dragon seal. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it circled around for a while. Then it calmed down and circled around in the dragon roar. The golden light dissipated and Tang Jing returned to normal. However, there was an occasional flash of golden light in his eyes that had a captivating charm. He channeled his energy slightly and the shocking dragon's might was completely withdrawn. He returned to the appearance of an ordinary young man. Phew. He heaved a heavy sigh. The scene just now was truly shocking, causing his heart to beat wildly. The higher the level of the dragon god technique, the more unexpected the scene of each breakthrough would be. 7. Now that the dragon god technique has reached the fourth stage, I can enter the fourth floor of the Langya Pavilion. He was extremely excited. What exactly was hidden on the fourth floor of the Langya Pavilion? Dong dong. The sound of knocking on the door interrupted his thoughts. The Empyrean fairy had already discovered that the aura in the room had disappeared, so she knocked on the door. Tang Jing, may I come in? Please come in. Tang Jing stood up. The Empyrean fairy pushed the door open and stared at Tang Jing with a burning gaze. It was as if she wanted to see through him, but strangely, his cultivation did not change much. What was that dragon roar just now? The Empyrean fairy asked in a deep voice. I heard a dragon roar just now. Tang Jing nodded and admitted, yes. You summoned the golden dragon again? Tang Jing hesitated for a moment. I didn't summon it. It ran out on its own when I was cultivating. The Empyrean fairy had seen the golden dragon before, and she had seen it absorb the dragon vein of the Qinling Mountains. Therefore there was no need to hide it. What martial art do you practice? The Empyrean fairy asked directly. The dragon god art was a divine art of the dragon clan. He could pass it on to Lu Qingmei, but he didn't dare to tell the Empyrean fairy. Sorry, I can't tell you this, Tang Jing replied. The Empyrean fairy raised her eyebrows. She did not expect Tang Jing to reject her so cleanly. She looked at him with displeasure. Tang Jing was helpless. He looked at her and refused to budge. After a long time, the Empyrean fairy knew that she could not force Tang Jing to compromise, so she asked, I haven't asked you before. Since you practice this mysterious martial art, you must have a close relationship with the Dragon Clan. Do you know what the Dragon Clan represents? What does the Dragon Clan represent? Tang Jing was confused. Isn't the Dragon Clan the Dragon Clan? The Empyrean fairy looked at him like she was looking at an idiot. You practice the Dragon Clan's martial art, but you don't know what the Dragon Clan represents? In fact, the Empyrean fairy was just casually asking as a test. She didn't expect to get such an answer. It was truly out of her expectations. Moreover, Tang Jing did not look like he was lying. The Dragon Clan is not a creature of our world. What? Since you know about the big world and the small world, you should know that we are not the only ones in the great wide world. The Dragon Clan is not a creature of our world, but a creature of another world. It's just that a small part of them came to our world at some point in time. Because of their powerful and majestic strength, they were treated as spiritual totems and passed down generation after generation. Tang Jing was shocked. Even the five-clawed golden dragon did not tell him about this. Perhaps ordinary cultivators were not aware of this, so Tian Chanzi did not mention it. The Empyrean fairy's identity was mysterious, so she knew the secrets. Where did the Dragon Clan come from? Tang Jing asked curiously. The Empyrean fairy took a deep breath and seemed to be lost in her memories. After a long time she said slowly, I don't know where they come from, but there are rumors that it's a world of dragons. The strong are everywhere and the weak can't survive. Tang Zheng could not help but imagine for a moment. The five-clawed golden dragon's strength was already frightening, not to mention the dragon clan that was even stronger. What kind of world would it be? In any case, with Tang Zheng's brain, he could not imagine what kind of world it was for the time being. Then why did the dragon clan come to our world? Tang Zheng asked again. I don't know. You practiced the dragon clan's cultivation method, so I wanted to ask you. The Empyrean fairy said. Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. How would I know? If you don't know, then where did your dragon clan's cultivation method come from? The Empyrean fairy did not give up and asked. It was a coincidence. Tang Zheng said perfunctorily. The Empyrean fairy coldly snorted. She knew that it was useless to ask, so she simply stopped asking. She said meaningfully, the dragon clan is very involved. If others know that you practice the dragon clan's cultivation method, then you will become a delicious cake. What do you mean? Tang Zheng's head trembled. The dragon clan is the spiritual totem of this world. You have also experienced Qin Shi Huang's crazy worship of the dragon clan. So, if others know that you not only have a golden dragon, but also a dragon clan's cultivation method, what do you think they will do? The Empyrean fairy looked at him with a smile and asked. Tang Zheng's heart trembled. It seemed that he had become Tang Seng's meat, and everyone wanted to take a bite. He had a lingering fear. Fortunately, he stopped Lu Qingmei from practicing the dragon god's cultivation method in time and changed it to another cultivation method. Otherwise, with her strength, it would be very dangerous for her to be targeted by others. Moreover, he could not reveal the secret of the dragon god's cultivation method in front of others. As for the golden dragon and the dragon seal, unless it was absolutely necessary, he absolutely could not let it appear. When the five-clawed golden dragon passed on the dragon god's cultivation method to me, it actually did not remind me of this point. I almost caused a disaster. He could not help but curse in his heart. The Empyrean fairy saw his expression change and said, So, you should take care of yourself. If you want to tell me about your cultivation method at any time, maybe I will remember some things about the dragon clan. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. It was obvious that the Empyrean fairy did not finish her words. This was a trick up her sleeve, just like how he also kept a trick up his sleeve and did not tell her everything. The Empyrean fairy left in disappointment. Tang Zheng closed the door again and silently circulated his cultivation method, preparing to enter the fourth floor of the Langya Pavilion in one go. The Langya Pavilion had a total of 18 floors, and the dragon god's cultivation method had 9 layers. Every time he broke through a layer, he would be able to ascend to the 9th floor of the Langya Pavilion. However, there were still 9 floors left in the Langya Pavilion. He was very curious about what was on the top floor, but the five-clawed golden dragon did not mention anything, so he could not guess. Langya Pavilion. The 3 words floated on the horizontal board above his head. Tang Zheng walked into the Langya Pavilion. Dong dong dong. He directly crossed the steps and directly arrived at the steps leading to the 4th floor. He took a deep breath, raised his foot and stepped onto the first step. Nothing happened. Only then did the corners of his mouth overflow with a smile, and he walked up the steps. He reached the 4th floor. When his foot landed on the floor of the 4th floor, the scene in front of him shocked him. When he looked back, the steps leading up had disappeared. He looked at everything in front of him in disbelief. Everything was so familiar. The blackboard, the desks, the classroom, and countless students who were immersed in their studies. Wasn't this the classroom in his high school? He looked around. It was indeed that classroom. He could not be more familiar with it. He spent more than 2 years of his high school life in this classroom. It was an unforgettable time. He fell from the top genius of the school to the bottom of the valley. He became the target of ridicule and even bullying. Many people, from teachers to students, laughed at him. It was a dark period of history. The pressure he endured was unimaginable to ordinary people. On one hand, there was the kind expectations of his grandfather, and on the other hand, there was the contemptuous and mocking gaze. It made him feel as if he was in the fire of hell. Tang Zheng, are you daydreaming again? Do you still think you're the top genius of the school? You're affecting other students' studies. You're a rat's poop, spoiling the pot of soup in our class. A piece of chalk hit his head. The familiar voice of the head teacher, Wu Zuehong, sneered. Her words were sharp, and she mercilessly mocked and ridiculed him. Tang Zheng suddenly raised his head and saw the familiar and hateful face of the old witch. A wave of anger rushed to his head. What right do you have to criticize me? Is this how you should be as a teacher? He was about to refute, but a series of ridicule followed one after another. He saw that the people around him were pointing at him and laughing non-stop. Tang Jing, you're a pauper. What right do you have to sit with us? You'll be a pauper your whole life. You should go pick up trash with your stinky grandfather. How dare you sit in this bright and clean classroom? Get lost, the garbage dump is where you belong. Get lost, the garbage dump is where you belong. The others laughed and echoed. They directly pushed Tang Jing, trying to push him out of the classroom. The old witch also came in front of him. That evil face of hers was laughing and scolding. Every word was like a knife stabbing into his heart. Tang Jing's face and ears were red. He was panting and his murderous aura surged. He hysterically roared, I'm going to kill you all. Aha, you still want to kill us? You're just a pauper with nothing. We can kill you in minutes. You still want to kill us? Keep dreaming. The crowd mocked. Tang Jing clenched his fists. His veins were exposed and his eyes flashed with a golden light. With a schwa sound, the war spirit sword appeared in his hand. However, the others were not afraid of him. They continued to provoke him with words as if they were not afraid of death at all. Chapter 8:17. The sword chi of war spirit was like a rainbow as it fell on the heads of the crowd. How could these people be a match for war spirit? They would definitely be smashed into pieces and turn into a rain of blood. Tang Jing. Suddenly, a delicate voice came from the crowd, and a graceful figure squeezed out with difficulty, standing gracefully in front of him. Tang Jing, you are a good person. You can't hurt them. War spirit hung above her head, but she was not afraid at all. She said, Tang Jing, I believe that you won't do such a thing. We are all classmates. Although these people are annoying, you can't put yourself in a desperate situation because of them. Killing them is useless. We have to be strong ourselves. I believe that you will become very strong and once again proudly stand in front of them. Tang Jing stared at this person without blinking. Fang Shishir. The concern on her face was so real that it touched his heart. His heartstrings trembled as he said, They are all scolding me and insulting me. I hate them. In this world there are people who slander me, bully me, humiliate me, laugh at me, look down on me, scold me, lie to me. What should I do? You just have to endure them, let them, avoid them, tolerate them, respect them, and ignore them. After a few more years, look at them. Fang Shishir advised earnestly. Compared to you, these people are like fireflies compared to the sun and moon. There is no comparison at all. You can't sacrifice yourself for them. It's not worth it. Tang Jing's heartstrings trembled, and his gaze also changed. These words seemed to have a magical power, and more importantly, there was not the slightest trace of disdain or ridicule between her brows. It was completely from the bottom of her heart. His nature was not bad. After being exposed by her, it was as if a bucket of ice water was poured over his head. His anger went down the drain. Looking at those ugly faces, they could not provoke his anger at all. These people had become insignificant, like passing clouds. With a wave of his hand, they disappeared into thin air. Fang Shishir looked at him and Wanner smiled. Her figure gradually faded, and in an instant she disappeared with the others. Tang Jing was suddenly startled, as if he had just woken up from a dream. He looked around, but there was no classroom. Everything just now was really a golden millet dream. Although it was real, it was particularly distant. He still had a lingering fear. He knew that he was in great danger just now. He was afraid that it was the work of the legendary inner demons. If Fang Shishir hadn't appeared in time to stop him, not only would he have killed those people, but he would also have fallen into the devil's path and suffered qigong deviation. In the past, he had only heard of people going berserk while practicing martial arts. He had never thought that it would be so close to him. If he went berserk, then he would really be ruined. He looked at the fourth floor. Perhaps the dream just now was caused by the fourth floor. What was so special about this floor? This floor was completely different from the other floors. There were no bookshelves or anything like that. It was completely empty. There was only a huge mirror placed in the middle of the room. It was as tall as a person. Tang Jing carefully walked in front of the mirror. He could clearly see himself in the mirror, but he was shocked by his own reflection. His appearance in the mirror was naturally the same as his actual appearance, but there were wisps of black smoke rising from his body. What's going on? He was shocked. The inner demons have been destroyed. The devil's power has left the body and turned into ashes. A line of words suddenly appeared on the mirror, firmly attracting Tang Jing's attention. He suddenly realized that the wisps of black smoke were the devil's power. Humans have inner demons. If they can't defeat the inner demons, then they will be controlled by the inner demons. They will fall into the devil's path and become bloodthirsty. Another line of words appeared, as if to answer Tang Zheng's question. The appearance of the devil's power leaving the body could only be seen in the mirror. It couldn't be seen by looking down. This was very mysterious, and Tang Zheng couldn't take his eyes off the mirror. The wisps of black smoke became fainter and fainter, and finally disappeared completely. Eliminate the devil and protect the Tao. The Exorcist Realm. The Exorcist Mirror. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. Could it be that this mirror was called the Exorcist Mirror, and that the illusion just now was caused by the Exorcist Realm? Moreover, it happened without warning, making it impossible to guard against. It could pry into the most fundamental part of a person's heart. Tang Zheng recalled that scene. Obviously, those years of suffering in school had left an indelible impression in his heart. He thought that he had forgotten, but he didn't expect that it would be imprinted in the depths of his heart and become the inner demons. The Exorcist Mirror evoked the inner demons, and the murderous intent in his heart surged, almost causing him to go berserk. All of this was thanks to Fang Shishir. Her kindness and beauty had left a mark in his heart back then. Therefore, even if the inner demons acted up, Fang Shishir's usual kindness had triggered the kindness in Tang Zheng's heart. Although he was angry in the end, there was still kindness in his heart. He was also a kind person. I must thank her properly when I get out. He focused his attention on the Exorcist Mirror again. There was no difference between his reflection in the mirror and an ordinary mirror. I thought that there would be some more powerful secret on the 4th floor, but I didn't expect that there would only be a mirror. How disappointing. He shook his head and searched everywhere but found nothing. He didn't know how rare the Exorcist Mirror was. The fact that it was carefully stored in Langya Pavilion was enough to show how extraordinary the Exorcist Mirror was. Once the inner demons in a person's body were expelled, cultivation would be twice as effective with half the effort, and there would be no need to worry about going berserk. Going berserk was a problem that many people with high cultivation had to face. If one's cultivation was low, the inner demons would not cause trouble. The higher one's cultivation was, the more likely the inner demons would act up. Without the inner demons causing trouble, Tang Zheng could cultivate smoothly, and his cultivation speed was even faster than before. However, he didn't know this, so he underestimated the power of the Exorcist Mirror. However, he wasn't in a hurry to leave Langya Pavilion. Cultivating in Langya Pavilion was twice as effective with half the effort, so he certainly wouldn't let go of this opportunity. When he channeled his power, he immediately noticed something strange. In the past, when he channeled his vital qi, he would occasionally feel sluggish, but now it was unimpeded, like a river flowing through a riverbed. It was extremely smooth. Could it be because I've gotten rid of my inner demon? His heart stirred and he immediately thought of this. The vital qi in his body was almost accumulated. Now that the inner demons were no longer causing trouble, his vital qi soared, and the spiritual energy in Langya Pavilion was absorbed into his body in the blink of an eye. Somehow, he had a feeling that his cultivation seemed to have reached the bottleneck of a breakthrough. In order to do it in one go, he took out the crystal stone that the King of Sweden had given him. Crystal stones were of a higher level than spirit stones. They contained a large amount of spiritual energy from heaven and earth, and were rare treasures for cultivators. The King of Sweden had given him one, and the other was for Tian Chanzi. He took out his own crystal stone, held it in the palm of his hand and channeled his power. Spiritual energy flowed into his body continuously, and his vital qi rose steadily. Whoosh! His whole body shone brightly, and a flame appeared on top of his head. It was a third-grade vital fire. The flame burned fiercely and the flame jumped, its color becoming darker and darker. Suddenly the flame rose high and Tang Zheng's body made a thunderous sound. The light outside his body was instantly restrained, and the vital fire also entered the top of his head. In his 8 extraordinary meridians, his vital qi was like a torrential flood, flowing continuously, and finally flowing into the golden elixir. The golden elixir shone brightly, illuminating the entire Dantian. The golden elixir grew little by little. When the vital qi subsided, the golden elixir was actually one size bigger, and became the size of a ping-pong ball. Tang Zheng suddenly opened his eyes, and a dazzling golden light flashed. He couldn't help but exclaim, 5th grade golden elixir, 4th grade vital fire. He opened his palm, and a darker flame immediately burned in his palm. It didn't make a sound, but the power it contained was unquestionable. 4th grade vital fire will definitely be more effective when refining pills, but I don't know which one is stronger, this 4th grade vital fire or Xiao Bai's fire. The scene in front of him suddenly changed. Tang Jing was familiar with it and knew that it was time. As expected, in the blink of an eye, he left Langya Pavilion and returned to his room. He secretly checked his body and found that his vital qi was becoming more condensed, and more vital qi was flowing out of his golden elixir. It was flowing continuously. He couldn't help but smile and said, although I relied on the sky-swallowing skill to absorb other people's power and increase my cultivation by 2 levels, this time I broke through with my own efforts. This is enough to show that I've consolidated my previous gains and offset the side effects of the sky-swallowing skill. He walked out of the room and the Empyrean fairy's eyes immediately locked onto him. At once, her eyes almost popped out and she exclaimed, how did your cultivation increase again? Previously, when she entered the room to see Tang Jing, his cultivation didn't change much. How long had it been? In just a few hours he had advanced by leaps and bounds. Wasn't this cultivation speed a bit too fast? Tang Jing nodded slightly at the Empyrean fairy and said, is it very surprising to raise your cultivation? The Empyrean maiden was so angry that she rolled her eyes at his calm tone and attitude. If this was not surprising, then what was? Young Master Tang, are you in there? Suddenly, a person rushed in from outside like a raging inferno. Tang Jing looked at the person who came and asked curiously, young Master Yen, why are you here? The person who came was Yen Lu Yun. When he saw Tang Jing, he pulled him back and said, quickly come back with me. The old man is looking for you. He said that there's something very important. Tang Jing was confused. What was the matter with Yen Padian gathering so many people? However, since the other party was so anxious, it must be a big matter. Thus he did not delay and said, then let's go. Fu Yao, tell the others that I'm going out for a while. The Empyrean fairy looked at his departing figure with a complicated expression. She couldn't help but feel jealous in the depths of her eyes. She was also a cultivation genius that many people envied. In fact, her background was extremely secretive and her background was extremely great. Therefore she rarely envied others, let alone being jealous. However, during this period of time she had been struck by Tang Jing time and time again. Her self-confidence had almost been destroyed, and she was even a little jealous of him. Chapter 8:18. When Yen Padian saw Tang Jing, he quickly walked over to welcome him. Tang Jing, please come in, you're finally here. Tang Jing looked at him strangely. Why would he, who was always calm and collected, lose his composure like this? He asked, what happened? I just received news that someone wants to take revenge on you. Revenge? Tang Jing frowned. Who wants to take revenge on me? The news of you killing the Sword God's disciple Jian Shisan has already spread. The Sword God has already entered the capital and wants to take revenge on you. Yen Padian said worriedly. The Sword God has entered the capital? Tang Jing was truly shocked. Back then he had met the Sword God in the snowy mountains in the northeast, and he still remembered it clearly. If not for the help of the 4 symbols Venerable and the Sword Spirit, he probably wouldn't have been able to walk out of that sky cavern. Yes, the Sword God is here for you. I just received this news, so I quickly called you over to discuss countermeasures. Yen Padian said anxiously. Tang Jing frowned and said, soldiers come to block, water comes to cover the earth. Since the Sword God is here, then dodging is definitely not possible. In the capital, Tang Jing was not afraid of the Sword God. After all, other than his own strength, there was also the Empyrean fairy, a powerful external aid. If the Sword God wanted to kill him, it would not be an easy task. Seeing that Tang Jing was not in a hurry at all, Yen Padian said anxiously, I am even more anxious than you. Why are you still so calm and collected, as if this matter has nothing to do with you? Although Yen Padian was also a Grandmaster stage expert, he knew that compared to the Sword God he had no chance of winning. Adding to the thunderous reputation of the Sword God, he would naturally be shocked in his heart. Tang Jing smiled faintly. The Sword God is also a human, I have already fought with him, he is not invincible, so there is no need to worry too much. Yen Padian didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, this is truly the case of the Emperor not being anxious, the eunuch is anxious. Tang Jing was moved and said, thank you Yen family head for your concern. This news is also very important to me. Otherwise, if I didn't make any preparations before encountering the sword deity, I'm afraid I would be in great danger. Yin Potion's heart relaxed. Tang Zheng's gratitude had not caused his work to be in vain. Although, after Yan Qingyi returned from the northwest, she had once told him about the new prophecy that she had seen, and that the Messiah seemed to be a misunderstanding. However, Yin Padian still thought highly of Tang Zheng and did his best to help him. The two of them had truly become allies in a trench. Then how are you going to prepare? Yin Padian asked curiously. This matter was of great importance, he had no choice but to ask. The corners of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up into a mysterious smile as he said, "The Song family has mobilized so many people and even invited the sword deity. They will definitely make a big fuss and let everyone watch a good show to see the strength of the Song family. Furthermore, I'm afraid that he has already investigated my background in the capital, so I think that they will take the initiative to attack." You said that they might attack your residence? Yin Padian asked with furrowed brows. Tang Zheng nodded his head. It's not that it should be but that it's a certainty. This time the Song family will definitely take over the sword god's hand and get rid of me. Of course they will go and kill me, and it will be even more intimidating, causing all the powers in the capital to fear the Song family in the future. Yin Padian pondered for a while, then nodded his head. Your analysis makes sense. But there are so many women in your family. If they get hurt that won't be good. In Yin Potion's eyes, Tang Zheng's romantic affairs were not worth mentioning at all. Which successful man did not have these things? The aristocratic families were already used to it. On the contrary, this was a manifestation of strength. Only the most powerful man would attract the favor of so many women. Tang Zheng recalled the few people in his family, and the corner of his mouth revealed a sweet smile. He shook his head and said, "There's no need to worry about them. This time I just happened to borrow the sword god to let them truly see the true face of this world." There were a few women in the family who had lived a good life since they were young and had never experienced any great storms. Tang Zheng had always tried his best to protect them, but in this world and because of their identities, they would eventually face all kinds of dangers. It was better to let them adapt in advance so that when they encountered danger in the future, they would not be flustered and would not know how to deal with it. Although this was somewhat cruel, it was still much better than being at a loss when facing danger in the future and causing irreparable and serious consequences. Seeing that Tang Zheng had already made up his mind, Yin Padian nodded his head in relief and said, "Our Yin family will help you fight against the enemies." Tang Zheng did not reject his good intentions and expressed his gratitude. The next day, Tang Zheng woke up and prepared breakfast for everyone. When everyone was gathered at the table, Tang Zheng said, "I have something to announce. I hope that everyone will stay at home today because someone will come." Someone? Who's coming? Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously. "You will know when the time comes, but be mentally prepared. I am afraid this day will not be that easy. When the time comes, don't be afraid, I will take care of everything." Seeing Tang Zheng acting mysteriously as if there was danger involved, everyone had different reactions. Empyrean Fairy was calm and collected, as if it had nothing to do with her. Wuxia was eager to give it a try. His eyes lit up as if he couldn't wait to fight immediately. Feng Shishir had experienced the matters of the Rockefeller family, so she could be considered to have some experience. She was looking forward to it because this was Tang Zheng's life. She had long wanted to integrate into it and help him. Lu Qingmei had never experienced these things before, so she was at a loss. Mu Hongyan seemed to have thought of something and was a little worried. Back then, when she was with her late husband, she was very worried about this kind of moment, which often meant that there were many unpredictable risks. Although he always comforted her and said that it was fine, the worry in the depths of his eyes could not escape her eyes. But at this moment, Tang Zheng was indeed calm and collected, but she did not see any worry in the depths of his eyes, as if he was not worried at all. She could not help but compare Tang Zheng with her late husband. Although her late husband was a descendant of an aristocratic family, with a prominent status and countless people envied him, but compared to Tang Zheng, it seemed that her late husband was overshadowed, and Tang Zheng was like the blazing sun in the sky, extremely dazzling. Everyone finished their breakfast with different thoughts, and then sat in the living room or in the garden, chatting and drinking tea, quietly waiting for everything to come. Tang Zheng blended in with everyone, a little green in the midst of 100 flowers, but it was also a happy and harmonious atmosphere. Everyone had been together for such a long time that they were completely harmonious. The initial feeling of unfamiliarity had also been eliminated. Therefore, one could only hear the occasional laughter and beautiful faces. This was definitely a picture that made one's heart beat faster. Although there was no information that indicated that the enemy would come today, Tang Jing believed that the enemy would definitely not wait any longer. They would be impatient to show their strength in an attempt to regain their lost face. Close to noon, a group of people appeared outside the villa as expected. Although this villa was not very far from Yenqing University, it was very quiet, and it was extremely difficult for ordinary people to come here, so when so many people suddenly appeared here, it did not attract any attention. The composition of this group was very complicated. There were old people in their old age, middle-aged people in the prime of their lives, and there were also youths full of vigor. The three generations of old, middle-aged, and young were very harmonious. Moreover, most of the people in this group were very good-looking. Those middle-aged men in the prime of their lives were casually pulled out, and they were also called uncles by infatuated girls. Not only were they handsome, but they also had an extraordinary temperament and style. As for the young man, it was even more so. His handsome face and beautiful face definitely covered many of the popular little fresh meat and female stars. Tang Jing stood at the door facing the sun and smiled at this group of people. He smacked his lips and said, "Hee, everyone is really here." The Song Yi and Chu families were all here. Among them, the Song family was Song Jianan, Song Hanjun, Song Yu, and other people in the Song family that he did not know. The Ye family's lineup could not be underestimated. Yi Xuanji, Yi Tianming, Yi Ku, and even Yi Meiyu were among them. Yi Meiyu had already established a marriage contract with Song Yu, so it was not strange for her to be present. The Chu family had already declined, and it was obvious that there were fewer experts, only Chu Mingxian and Chu Xiaofeng. The Chu family had long been following the lead of the Song family, so of course they would not be absent from such an important place. Of course, the most eye-catching person was the sword god who was standing in front of the group. He stood proudly like a divine sword that was inserted into the earth, causing people to respect him. The sword god's gaze was sharp, like a sharp sword as he stared at Tang Jing. Last time he let Tang Jing slip away and even took away the sword spirit. He had always felt regret, and it was even more of a humiliation. Who would have thought that before this matter was settled, Tang Jing would actually kill his beloved disciple Jian Shisan. Jian Shisan was the most talented of his three disciples, and he had always placed high hopes on him. To die so unexpectedly, and at the hands of an old opponent, the sword god's mood could be imagined. But when the sword god saw Tang Jing again, he was shocked. Although Tang Jing had deliberately restrained himself, the aura that he unintentionally emitted still could not escape his golden eyes. What exactly happened to this brat? How did his strength increase so quickly? The sword god had seen countless geniuses in his life, but none of them could be compared to Tang Jing, even he himself could not. His talent was envied by the world, especially his achievements in the way of the sword. Ordinary people would find it difficult to catch up to him, but he knew that compared to Tang Jing, he was still slightly inferior. The others saw the two of them looking at each other from afar. If they knew what the sword god was thinking, they would be so shocked that their jaws would drop to the ground. Tang Jing lifted his foot, and with just a small step, he actually arrived at the entrance of the courtyard. The power of the shrinking ground into an inch technique could be seen at a glance. Many experts only took a glance and their expressions changed slightly. The corner of Tang Jing's mouth hooked up into a faint smile and said, "With such a large force, it seems like you won't stop until you kill me. Tang Jing, you should have died a long time ago. Back then, when you first arrived in the capital, I should have killed you. There wouldn't have been so many things to do after that." Chu Xiaofeng jumped out and complained fiercely. Tang Jing glanced at him indifferently and said, "Since when is it your turn to speak here? The Chu family has indeed declined and there are no rules at all." Chu Xiaofeng's face immediately flushed red, and he panted like an ox, unable to speak. Tang Jing did not put him in his eyes at all, and turned to the sword god and asked, "You are here to denounce me for the death of Jian Shisan, then do you know the true cause of Jian Shisan's death?" The moment these words were spoken, the expressions of the Song family members changed, because there was a detail that could not be revealed to outsiders. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.